Live on YouTube. Am I live on YouTube? Let me get ready for the chat. Okay, I should be live, right? On YouTube. I'm live on YouTube. No? You cannot see me? Yeah, refresh. I can see myself live actually. My main channel. Oh, why? Sorry, guys. Let me check if I'm live. Oh, I'm not live. Wait. Something is wrong. What is wrong? What is wrong? What is wrong? Maybe my live stream is set as private, I think. How can I fix it? Why my stream is set as private? Because I can see myself live, but wait, maybe I will do like this. I will stop on YouTube and I will start again. Am I live on YouTube? Am I live on YouTube? No, when it's like this, you need to go to my page, not like this. It means you need to try again. Oh, why? Oh yeah, I'm live. Oh, there's an ad. I am live. Okay. So, let's start. Today I'm gonna react to Airflare tutorials. Last time I reacted to Flare tutorials on YouTube. And yeah, let me know if the volumes are okay now that I'm gonna play some videos. I saved here in a playlist some tutorials that I want to react. Few of them are gonna be even my tutorials, and then from some other guys. I mainly chose the tutorial based on the views. So I chose the tutorials with most views on YouTube. But if you have any recommendation of tutorials that you want me to react, just drop the titles or the name of the person who made it in the chat or in the comments. So maybe this time or maybe next time I can react to other tutorials. I'm gonna start with Pygmy, how to Airflare tutorial 8 years ago. This video has over 600,000 views. Okay, can you reduce the volume a little bit? Okay, let's play.
What's up everybody, Lucas here with Practice and Mental Preparation. This tutorial will teach you how to do air flares. But you gotta focus. Alright, before we get started, some recommended prerequisites that'll most likely help you out on your air flare journey. Now, being able to hold a decent handstand, having strong shoulders will definitely help you with getting air flares.
Yes, handstand is a basic prerequisite for the air flare. Some people say that handstand is also a prerequisite for the flare. In my opinion, not necessarily. Usually all the people who can do flare can also do a handstand, but it's not correlated. It doesn't mean that handstand is a prerequisite. Actually, handstand can give you enough shoulder control and strength even for a flare. but the two movements are completely different. But for an air flare instead, it's more useful because the body angle in an air flare in a handstand is more similar, while in a flare and in a handstand the body angle is very different. The only way to make it the same is if your flare is very, very high, but this is already for advanced b-boys. But if you're a beginner, the body angle and the movement, handstand and flare, is two completely different things. So for the flare, I would say the prerequisite in terms of posture, of position, is more like a tuck planche than a handstand. Or maybe a like a press to handstand, even if you cannot hold the handstand, if you have the strength to go up. What is this sound? Sometimes I hear this sound, but I cannot really understand. Okay, doesn't matter. So, what is this? Which platform is it from? Can you hear? Like this? I don't know.
People are giving you the gift.
I don't know. If you are giving me something, thank you. I don't know. Oh, this kind of sound. I don't know what is this kind of sound. Is it coming from YouTube? Yeah, it should be from YouTube, right? Okay, I don't know. I still need to learn more about live streaming because I'm just starting. But okay, let's move on. So for Airflare, again, what is it? For Airflare, handstand is a prerequisite. You don't necessarily need to hold a handstand for a very long time. So some people will say like you need to hold a handstand for 30 seconds or 1 minute to do an air flare. In my opinion, it's not the case. Handstand can give you a good amount of shoulder control and shoulder stability for air flare, yes, but then the two movements are completely different. So I would say that already 10 or 20 seconds are already enough. But it depends of the form of the air flare. So for example, if you're practicing very high air flare, you need to have a good handstand, maybe over 30 seconds. But if your form of air flare is lower, then you don't need a handstand for so long. Actually, when I learned air flare, my technique was kind of low, 45 degrees or even lower, maybe a little bit. And my handstand was not the best. I couldn't hold properly a good handstand for a long time. My handstand was still a little bit shaky, and still I needed to walk sometimes in a handstand. I couldn't stay like in the same spot in a handstand for a very long time. Maybe for, I don't know, I never counted. So at that time, I don't know, maybe it can be, if I was lucky, maybe over 30 seconds. But sometimes if I wasn't lucky, my handstand was only 10 seconds and then I started walking. So this is the proof that in order to get air flare with a lower form, you don't need a perfect handstand. So let's move on.
Being able to do a single hand hop on each arm.
This is more important than a handstand. Single hand up on both arms. Why that? Because air flare relies very heavily on jumping from one arm to the other arm. So if you're not familiar on jumping on both arms, the feeling of the air flare will be a little weird and very heavy. So you really need at least one or some hand ups on both sides. Let's say you spin clockwise like me, and so you throw from the right hand to the left hand. You need to have a good hand up on the right hand to be able to push away from the floor. That is kind of like the throw of an air flare, but you also need to have a good hand up on the left to catch the air flare. So the intention of the hand ups is different between the right hand and the left hand. So if you spin clockwise again, the intention of the hop on the right hand is to push away off the floor. The intention of the hop on the left arm is to land. So when you practice hand ups, if you practice hand ups specifically for the air flare, you need to have different intentions when you do hand ups on the right and hand ups on the left. On the right, focus a lot on the jump, and on the left, focus a lot on the landing of the hand ups. And also the shape of the hand up can be a little bit different. So when you do it on the right arm or the throwing arm, your hips can be a little bit more turned because before to throw in an air flare, you need to twist your hips a little bit and try to pike. It's not really mandatory. Some people also do air flare without really twisting so much. For example, B-Boy Pocket, for example, B-Boy Chico, even B-Boy Punisher, or other b-boys, they don't do air flares by bouncing their hips so much. So in these specific cases, you don't need it, but I still would recommend to learn one hand up at least. But yeah, usually for in most cases, try to twist your hips as much as possible on the right arm or the throwing arm. If you do counterclockwise, it will be your left arm. And on the left side hand up or the landing side hand up, you don't need to twist too much, but you need to be in an air freeze like position. By air freeze, I mean not like a pike freeze. Pike freeze, I mean more turned, more open like this. But air freeze, normally it's a little bit more sideways, okay? Kind of like the difference between a side chair and an air chair. In the side chair, you're more leaning on the side. In an air chair, you're more twisting. Same for the pike freeze versus the air freeze. I also can do handstand properly, Marcel. Are you also training Airflare already? So let's move on. I'm doing very slowly. I want to take step by step every information of the tutorial.
Arms tight will also help you. Doesn't have to be
he's
pretty
up
though.
on the
Notice mine's not even
left is
pretty on
not
the left
really,
arm.
really
I'm jumping
good.
off my left arm for air flares. Explosive push-ups can help.
Pretty bad,
Now
but
one-
actually he can do air flares, but he's left hand up. You can do one hop, but a little bit form.
I'll let you know that
You can still do air flares without knowing hand ups, but then you will have sorry for my English sometimes. You will have hard times really have a good and controlled air flare, and you need to rely on momentum. So the less control you have on static positions like handstand, like hand ups, even like bridge or hollow back or invert, then the more you need to rely on momentum for the air flare, the more speed you need to have. If you are very good in the freezes, in handstand, in hand up on one side, on hand ups on the other side, maybe even on hollow backs or inverts and the bridge, then the less momentum you need for the air flare. So in my case, for example, when I learned air flare, my handstand was not the best. My hand up was good only on my landing arm, but on my throwing arm, my hand up was not good. Maybe I could do one or two hand ups, but pretty bad form. So in my specific case, at that time, I needed to rely a lot on speed and momentum in order to do multiple air flares. If I tried to do air flares a little bit slower, it was so hard for me. Then when I learned hand ups properly on both sides, and then when I fixed my handstand a little bit, then I could also improve my air flare technique, and I started to learn slow air flare and faster air flare also because I had more control, and some variations of the air flares as well.
just raw practicing of air flares is going to be the most important part when it comes to getting air flares. However, these prerequisites can definitely help. Let us now begin
I don't
learning
like
air
much
flare.
this guy's tutorial, Marcel. Oh,
To
why?
begin, the setup. The first thing you want to do is determine which way you want to spin. Imagine a clock on the ground facing up. I go counterclockwise around that clock. If you go the other way, just use the opposite arms and legs that I describe in this video. So to begin,
So he spins in the opposite direction as me. So when I talk about the right arm, for him it will be the left arm.
stand spreading your legs. Now I'm gonna put my right hand down first because I'm going counterclockwise. If you're going clockwise, you're gonna put your left hand down. You are going to face your fingers medially towards the inside. All right, don't put your hand down straight. You want to go medially because you want to turn about 90 degrees around the hand. This gets you moving in a circle, which helps you develop momentum for your first air flare. Now the kick. I'm gonna put
In my opinion, in an airflare tutorial, there is no need to explain the power move start because the power move start should be already mastered when you are starting to learn the airflare. The power move start should not even be a struggle or a problem. So in an airflare tutorial, I wouldn't bother explaining the power move start because people should already have learned it from the windmill, maybe from the swipe, even from flares or for 90s, for other moves, basically.
my right hand down facing medially, like I said before. Then I'm going to keep my right foot on the ground, but I am going to kick my left heel back up in the air at about a 45-degree angle, keeping the whole entire body tight. You're going to kick that heel Let it slightly cross over the right leg and then jump off the right leg, going into the whip position, into almost a handstand on an angle going around your right arm.
Yeah, all this part for me is really not needed. Yeah, people should already know about this when start learning airflares.
Something you should keep in mind while doing these exercises is keeping your arms pushed out. Do not let them sink in like this, keep them pushed out. So you might want to get on the ground and practice pulling that scapula in, pushing your arms completely out. This will help you stay.
I'm gonna skip a little bit because in my opinion this part is really not needed, a little bit useless in this kind of tutorial. So I really want him to explain the airflare, not the start. The start, as I said, people should already master this before. It's kind of like explaining how to hand up in an airflare tutorial, in my opinion.
Right.
I know the power move start is still a part of the airflare because to start an airflare you need the power move start. But the power move start is also something that we use to enter any other power move. So we use it for the windmill, we use it for the swipe, we can even use it for the flare, for the head spin, for elbow tracks, for 90s. The only difference is the angle. So maybe he doesn't need to explain the power move start. Maybe he can only mention about the angle of the body. For example, if we know how to do the power move start, but we only use it for a windmill and then for a 90, maybe we only know how to do the power move start pretty low for a windmill and we only know how to do it very high vertically for a 90, but we are not used to do the power move start in the same angle as the airflare. So he can only mention that we need to adjust our hips level, our hips height, and our body angle depending on the move that we want to do. For windmill, we can be very low with our hips. For 90s, we need to be completely vertical. For airflare, it's a mix. We need to be around 45 degrees. Some people are higher, some people are lower, depending on your airflare form. There is not like a right or wrong in this case, but it depends on your airflare technique. How many time did it took you to learn it, the airflare? If I'm not wrong, it took around 8 months. But before learning airflare, I had already good basics, pretty strong basics in already some power moves. So I already knew how to windmill variations, flares, swipes, even elbow airflare a little bit, which is almost as an airflare already. I could do maybe a few rounds of elbow airflare before trying the airflare. And also halos, also shoulder halo, and shoulder spins. Shoulder spin doesn't really help for the airflare, but still is something. And also I could combine all of these moves together in many different ways. So I can combine windmill to elbow track, windmill to halo, windmill to shoulder halo, flare to swipe to flare, flare to halo, flare to windmill variations, as I say. So windmill to flare, windmill to swipe also. So really mastering all these basics allow me to learn airflare, I think, pretty quickly compared to the average b-boy, because I see many b-boys, they take over 1 year or maybe even multiple years sometimes to learn airflares. For me, it took 8 months, yeah. And the way I practice airflare, at the beginning, I only practice 1 round of airflare inside combos. So I would not try to throw multiple rounds. I was not trying to do 2 rounds, 3 rounds. I was only trying to do 1 round, even with very bad form, but always combining it to other moves. So I never practiced one airflare only. So 1 airflare and stopping. I never really practiced like this. I always did airflare to flare or airflare to windmill. And then later on, even airflare to swipe, which was very useful for me. But I see a lot of people doing 1 airflare and then falling and then stopping. This is a huge problem because you're gonna kill the momentum completely. You need to force yourself to really continue to another move to keep the momentum going, and then eventually it's gonna become smoother, and then you're gonna be able to learn 2 rounds and 3 rounds and so on. So from the beginning, I really used the 1 airflare that I got, even if it was very unclean at the beginning, already into my power move combos. And as soon as I learned airflare to flare and airflare to windmill, I also practice flare to airflare to flare and windmill to airflare to windmill. very, very soon. Even though I couldn't do 2 rounds of Airflare, I could already connect one Airflare to other moves. So this is so important to connect. For me that weird, but I can do Airflare. If I start from a flare and not even a power move start, that weird. Maybe it depends on your flare. So for example, if your flare is very powerful, or also your windmill or your swipes or any other move is very powerful, maybe you can use this move that you got as a setup for the air flare. Some people who got powerful flare, they can use the flare as a setup to do air flare, and maybe the air flare will be easier for them from flare instead of just doing air flare regularly. So it all depends on your personal habits. If your habit is doing flares, try Airflare from flare directly. If your habit is doing swipes, try directly from swipe to Airflare. If your habit is going up from the windmill, so for example doing windmill to 90 or windmill to swipes, then try already windmill to Airflare.
Arm down immediately, kick the left leg up, you swing around.
Oh, it's still
When you
talking
turn
about the start, so
the other
it's
arm,
not needed at all.
So you can add a little wind up with the upper body. Notice how I turn my right side and then I put it down. This just helps develop momentum. Keep drilling this. You try to keep the leg straight. Kick that left leg up. Then jump off the right foot. Allow the momentum to carry you around. You got to keep your body solid. Really focus.
I will still skip because he's still talking about the power move start so long. Actually, we are already 3 minutes and 40 inside the tutorial. The throw. Okay, here
A lot of people
the
will get
real
stuck on
the real tutorial should start.
the first throw. So to get past this, there's a few things you should know.
Pretty nice form though. I like his form. It's pretty solid.
So
He used what I call the normal form or the standard form, where one leg is pushing like a hand up and the other leg is swinging down. So as you
On
can
the
see
first-
here, this leg here, in his case, is the right leg, is a little bit bent, is pushing kind of like a hand up like this, and then this other leg is swinging down and then going up. So one leg is kind of like having a tricks technique or a freeze transition technique. The other leg is having like a power move technique, fully swinging. Some people have other type of techniques. For example, they swing both legs instead of bouncing up the leg. They just swing both of them. Some people even bounce both of the legs, kind of like really doing a trick, really doing a hand up. So the technique doesn't really matter. It depends on you. It depends on your basics and on your strength and on your weaknesses.
throw. So to get past this, there's a few things you should know. Something you might want to work on before even going for the first throw is just getting on the ground on all fours, turning over the arm you're going to be jumping off of, keeping it pushed down. But then the key point is work on throwing the opposite arm down quickly. A lot of people expect to float, but that's not the case. You need to get...
Yeah, this is a good, very basic exercise to just have the feeling of the impact of the landing and of the jump. So this exercise, I would recommend it to only someone who is really new to the Airflare and still really need to feel the movement. But when you already have almost one clean round, or you can already do one round to some other combos, some other moves, then you don't need this exercise anymore at all. It's just a very beginner friendly exercise to get the feeling of the Airflare.
that other arm down quick. So get on the ground, crab walk position, and work on throwing from opposite arm to the other.
If you already got strong swipes, you don't need this exercise at all because the swipe is already teaching you the same movement pattern with your torso and with your arms. So in my case, for example, I used to do swipes a lot before to do air flares. So in my specific case, this exercise was not that useful because I used the swipe instead of this exercise. That is even better. But if you cannot do swipes, you can still learn air flares without doing swipes, of course. So in this case, you really need this exercise at the beginning to learn and to understand how to throw the arms.
Keeping the body tight, focusing on the quickness and speed of the turn. Now, when actually going for the first throw off of the wind-up, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Naturally, you're going to want to
So
put
scary, a lot of things that can go wrong.
your feet down. You're going to need to get over this. To do so, you're going to want to keep your body tight and then work on swooping your left leg from the up position, under, and then up.
Yeah, this part here, so swinging down the leg and then swinging it up, I see so many people struggle with this movement of the leg. Some people, they cannot really swing the leg down. They kind of kick diagonally. They are not able to generate a good circle with the leg. Usually this come when you're not so familiar with basic power moves. So if you already got basic power move combos like flare to swipes, swipes to flare, even more important actually, windmill to flare, and yeah, different power move combos. Usually this comes naturally because you already know in basic power moves how to swing your legs properly. Also, this problem comes people who are not able to swing. This problem happens when you're trying Airflare on one side, but some of your other power moves, maybe the windmill or maybe the flare, are on the other direction. If you have all your basic power move in the same direction, usually this problem doesn't happen. But if you have some power moves on clockwise, some power moves counterclockwise, then you feel a little bit uncoordinated and you cannot swing your legs properly. So I really, really recommend to practice your basics, all your basics on the same direction. For example, if you have flare and if you have windmills, but the flare is on one direction and the windmill is on the opposite direction, you shouldn't count one of these two moves for the Airflare. You should only count the moves that are in the same direction as the Airflare, you know? So, for example, if I do the windmill, but my windmill is on the opposite side of my Airflare, I wouldn't count my windmill as a prerequisite for the Airflare. I would count, I cannot do windmill in this case. You need to learn the windmill on the same direction of the Airflare in order to give you the same leg movement pattern and to become stronger in this muscle activation to swing your legs properly. Pretty good
Notice
posture.
I am keeping my body tight and my left
He has very, very clean form actually.
shoulder is locked solid. Now, a misconception a lot of people have when doing their first throw is they think that they want to keep their legs continually moving in a circle, thus causing them to bring their right leg down towards the ground. This causes you to immediately shoot towards the ground and not be able to catch for your second Airflare. What you want to actually think about doing is...
Yeah, this is the second problem, second most common problem. Swinging in his case, is gonna be the right leg down. In my case, spinning clockwise, it would be the left leg down. So basically how it shows here, I'm gonna rewind a little bit.
leg down.
Yeah, this one leg. Many people, they keep swinging the legs and almost arching them, and then one leg is gonna fall down. At the beginning, if you practice the wide Airflare, I mean lower angle, it's pretty unavoidable. It's pretty, like, it always happen. I never see a b-boy who practice the lower angle Airflare. They don't have this issue. So you will always have this issue at the beginning if you practice this form of Airflare. It's so rare. I never see in my whole life some b-boy that practice this form of Airflare and didn't have this issue at the beginning. I also had it. It's very normal because the Airflare is a jump. It's not only a rotation, but it's also a jump, kind of like a back flip or like a front flip. So naturally, your brain, when you are with your whole body in the air,
ground.
In this moment,
Causes you to...
oh, sorry, I couldn't stop in the right boat. So basically, when you're jumping and your whole body is in the air, your natural instinct is to catch the floor with your feet, because your feet and your legs are the strongest body part in the human body, you know, and we are used to jump on our feet, not on our hands. So catching on our hands is pretty scary, but catching on our feet feels more safe. So our natural instinct is to drop the foot down in order to save ourselves from falling, you know. But this actually makes us fall. So we kinda should remove this natural instinct of protection that we have, and we should learn how to kick higher and higher with our legs. So instead of keep swinging like he shows here,
thus
let
causing
me
them
rewind
to
one
bring
more.
their right leg down.
Yeah, from this position here, instead of keep swinging this foot in this way down, we should learn how to bounce it up. And here the hand-ups come very useful because the movement pattern is the same as the hand-ups. If you cannot do hand-ups properly on this hand, you can still learn Airflare. Actually, it was also my case, but it's gonna be a little bit harder and you need to rely on momentum more. So you need to kick stronger in this case. And in my case, I used to cheat a lot. So for example,
Towards the ground.
when I landed here, many people here will stop and then they will stand up and then they will try again. For me, I would never stand up from here. I would try to, even if I touch with one foot the floor, I would still go into a flare from this position here. Even if it feels wrong and if it feels awkward, it's very useful because it teaches your brain, okay, from here I can still continue and I can still keep swinging my legs. So eventually with time, this foot here that now is on the floor will stop hitting the floor but will start sliding on the floor. But you need to consciously kick it more and you should also consciously try to kick it higher. And then with time, this foot will start sliding on the floor, and then when you get better, will start not even sliding on the floor anymore, but the transition will be natural. So you will be able to do Airflare to flare without sliding anymore. The most important thing is to not stop here. So don't just stand up and try again from this position, but try to continue into a flare or to another move. Can be also windmill, can be swipe, can be any other move. Of course, windmill or flare, in my opinion, are the two easiest options. And yeah, at the same time, work on the hand-ups. That really, it's really useful to learn how to kick the legs and the hips straight up and not kick it down on the floor.
Causes you to immediately shoot towards the ground and not be able to catch for your second air flare. What you want to actually think about doing is keeping both legs going up towards the sky until you catch with the throwing arm.
As you can see now, he kicked the right leg a little bit higher, and then he slid. He slid. What is the past of slide?
It's going up towards the sky.
Here his posture is much better than the previous attempt. So he can land properly on this hand. And then this foot here, as you can see, he's still touching the floor, but he's sliding, you know? He's touching the floor and then sliding. From this position, I would recommend to continue to another power move. Or even in the previous case, even if you fall very wrong, still continue to another power move to teach your brain that you should continue and not stop there. Stopping there is the worst thing that you can do to learn Airflare. It will kill your progress so fast. Most of people who got stuck for Airflare and learn it very slow, their main issue was they did one round and they fall and they try again. They do one round, they fall and they try again. This is the worst way to practice Airflare, in my opinion.
With the throwing arm, and then you bring it down. This is a key problem and a misconception a lot of people have when trying to do air flares, and it prevents a lot of...
Yeah, as you can see, this right leg in his case is kicking straight up like a hand up, same thing. Of course, at the same time he's swinging, but you don't really need to think about swinging it. It comes natural, actually. All you need to think is just jumping high, vertically.
People from doing too. So think about keeping both legs going up, almost like piking both legs, then throwing that arm quickly down to the other side, and when you feel it catch is when you can start to swing your second one. So think about always trying to keep your hips high and continuing both legs up until you catch with your catching arm. Now that hop is going to come from the leg swooping down and up through the hips, through the left shoulder. You're going to do basically like a hand hop off the left shoulder, but it's going to be coupled with your right arm whipping down quickly. So be solid in the arms. Now when you catch with the right arm or left arm, if you're going clockwise, you want to be quick. You don't want to be stuck on one air flare for too long. You need to keep your entire...
This is very important that he just said, don't get stuck on one airflare for too long. In my case, I would interpret it like practice combos first, because going from one airflare to two airflares is pretty hard. It's very hard. It's almost impossible actually going directly from one airflare to two airflares. Most of people, before going from one airflare to two airflares, they learn combos in the middle. So they learn airflare to flare or airflare to windmill or to swipe usually. One of these three combos. Usually is flare or windmill. And then by evolving more and more and improving the shape of this combo, so for example airflare to windmill, then eventually you will have enough air time in the airflare to do the second round, to try to throw the second round. At first, the second round may be very unclean and very low, but don't worry. If you can throw the second round, it's already the most difficult part, actually. The most difficult part for me in the airflare is going from the first round to the second round. The first round, if you have enough basics, should be very quick to learn, actually. If you have enough basics, of course. Otherwise, it can take years. But the problem is learning multiple rounds, how to stay in the air all the time. Because doing one round very quickly and then going to another move can be pretty easy. But then staying in the air all the time and do the second and then the third round is pretty hard. So combos is the key, and don't get stuck in one round too long. This is the most common problem people have. But this is also true for any other move. Don't get stuck, for example, even on flares. If you practice flare, don't get stuck on one round of flare for too long. You need to try to continue the flare as soon as possible. Remember, every power move, actually, at first, it should be about quantity, and then it should be about quality. So don't try to learn the perfect technique when you are trying only one round, immediately when you're trying to learn the move, you know. At first, your technique will be bad, in most cases. Some people, maybe they are more lucky, or maybe they are more flexible, or they have a better understanding on their body, and so their form will be naturally good immediately. But for most of people, the form in any power move that you're gonna train will be a little bit bad at the beginning. So don't worry about the form, just do it. Just do multiple flares, just do multiple windmills, just do multiple air flares, and then fix the form later on with time. Of course, you should have a goal in mind. The goal shouldn't be just fixing my form. You should know exactly what you want to fix in your form. So make a lot of videos of yourself compared to other b-boys and try to figure out, oh, what should I fix about my air flare or about my flare, about my windmill? Is it my left leg? Is it my right leg? Is it both legs? Is it the arms position? Is it my head? Is it whatever? I don't know. It depends on you. So, but try to analyze and try to fix your form later on. Not immediately, but later.
Entire body tight, shoulder pushed out. Feel your momentum.
But also, one more thing I want to add. Once you learn, for example, let's say 5 to 10 rounds of a move, also don't wait too long to adjust your form. Because otherwise, if you keep repeating the same move for many months or many years with the same form, your body will kind of memorize this movement pattern with this form, and you will have very, very hard time fixing the form and changing the form, you know. So the progress should try to be, I wouldn't say quick, but it should be smooth from one step to the other. Don't try to not get stuck into one step for too long. If you get stuck in somewhere for too long, you're doing something wrong, actually. So at first, learn one air flare, then immediately try to combine it with other moves. Then try to get a little bit cleaner and a little bit higher in this one air flare, combined with other moves, and then try to throw the second air flare. And then so on. Try 2 air flares, do some moves, and then try 3 and so on, until you reach 5 or more, 5 to 10, I would say, air flares. At this point, you should already try to fix the form and adjust your shape of the air flare. If you wait too long to learn maybe 15 air flares, or if you are too strict in going after 10 air flares and then fixing the form, maybe you will get stuck in a bad habit that doesn't allow you to do many air flares. For example, I see some people getting stuck around 7 air flares or 8 air flares, or maybe 10 sometimes, but they cannot go beyond, because in this case they got stuck in their form for too long, and now they really have hard times adjusting their form. And for example, maybe they're just swinging their legs, but they don't know how to push up with their hips, so they're gonna have hard time. And they can still do it, of course, but they need to be a little bit humble, and they need to do one step back, and they need to really adjust and really try hard to fix their mistakes or fix their form and their issue, and based on their level, based on what they want to achieve actually.
Some come down, and what I want you to do is quickly try to throw a second one no matter how it looks, because you need...
Sorry guys, I think I'm talking too much. I will watch more because I'm not even finishing the first video and I'm already so long.
To get out of the mindset of just doing one. A lot of people will get stuck on just one.
Yes.
So don't let that happen to you. Even if it looks like crap, try to whip a second one. Something that might help you get used to doing multiple is just doing arm switches from the footwork.
I'm pretty surprised he doesn't mention combos. So basically, from what he's saying, just go from the first one to the second one. It's pretty hard to go from the first Airflare to the second Airflare immediately.
Position, jumping from one arm to the other, whipping the legs through. Just keep in mind that you're not going to have this much time when doing Airflares. It's a lot quicker. But this will help you get used to the throws and help your shoulders get used to being solid on the ground at all times. Legs spread, right hand down, facing inwards, kick my left leg up and around, swoop my left leg under and then up to give me lift, keep my right leg going up. You can even bend and kick it like a hand hop. Also keeping my left shoulder tight, pushed out, and notice how I'm actually leaning over my arm on a slight angle. Then
yeah, this is also important to lean in the same direction of your throwing arm. So if you're spinning clockwise like me and you throw from the right arm to the left, lean towards the right side, okay? Move the weight of your body towards the right side. For this, practicing pike freezes will help you a lot, because pike freezes, it's all about leaning on one arm and then opening the chest on one arm. And also swipes. Swipes can help you a lot for that, to really learn how to lean on one arm, especially if your swipes are very good form and very wide. If your swipe, you can do it, but the form of the swipe a little bit suck, it will not be so helpful for the Airflare. In order to make the swipe helpful for the Airflare, it should be a very wide and very powerful swipe, not like just a normal swipe. Otherwise, normal swipe can still help a little bit for the Airflare, but not that much. So really try to have a very wide power swipe. And try to also in the swipe wait on each arm for a little bit. So for example, don't just lean the arm very quickly, but lean the arm, wait, and do a full circle on the arm, then lean the other arm, wait, and then tap. So have a long waiting time on each arm during the swipe. In this case, you will really understand how to lean and how to move the weight from one arm to the other and not just move very quickly, you know? Because in the Airflare, it's all about leaning, moving the weight from one side to the other, and then jumping also and being able to use the hips. So hips and kick is from hand-ups. If you have good hand-ups, it will make you understand how to push up, and also from windmills. If you have powerful windmills, it will help you a lot for the swing of the Airflare. So how to use your legs for the Airflare? Learn hand-ups, learn windmills. How to use your upper body for the Airflares? To lean the weight of your body on your arms, learn flares and learn swipes. These two moves, flare and swipes, will teach you a lot on how to move your weight from one side to the other, especially when these two moves, flare and swipes, will start becoming very powerful and very wide. The more powerful your flare and your swipes are, the more useful they will be for Airflares. If you can do flare, but it's kind of like a very low energy flare or very low flare, it will not help you so much for the Airflare. If you can do swipe, but it's pretty unclean, it will not help you so much for the Airflare also. And then also for the leaning, learn pike freezes to open up your shoulders and your chest like this for the Airflare. So again, legs, hand-ups and windmills, arms and upper body, flare, swipe, and pike freezes.
You're gonna quickly whip that right arm over, down to the ground, catch it before you continue your legs throughout the motion of the second Airflare. The key point is you need to get your right arm down before your legs start coming down so you continue your second Airflare. I'm always thinking about keeping my hips over my shoulders. I am also slightly bending and popping my right leg like a hand hop and hopping off of my left shoulder, throwing my right arm down quickly, getting it to the ground before my legs can beat me there. Alright, here's a little wind up I use in the beginning to get extra momentum. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, but I put my right leg in front of my left and then I open it up into the spread leg position. Then I put down my right hand, then kick my left leg up like I said, follow with the right, keeping them spread, swoop my left.
As you can see here, when you do the power move start, for me it's the same actually. He's pretty wide and he's creating a big circle on his first hand. In my case it will be the left, in his case it's the right. So create a big circle. Not every b-boy do like that, do the power move start so widely. So it's not really mandatory, but it can help you generate more momentum. So for example, if you struggle a lot on momentum in the Airflare, you feel like you're pretty slow in the Airflare, doing this power move start can help you. So let's rewind a little bit. As you can see, now he's facing the camera. So basically his chest and his head are facing towards the screen, the camera, okay?
My right
And
hand.
try to pay attention where he's leaning the first and also the second hand and in which position.
Then
He's kind of twisting. He's twisting in his hand inwards to have more momentum, okay? He's not placing the hand straight on the floor, but twisting inwards. This help you generate a lot of momentum more. Kind of like a reverse 90 almost.
my left leg up like I said.
And you can see also the hand is a little bit far. It's not very close to his feet, like in the middle of his feet, but it's pretty far away. This helps you also generate more circle, more momentum.
Follow with the right.
And here he's facing the camera again.
Bit of a spread.
And you see how far he's placing the second hand?
Swoop my left leg down. Keep
So you almost do one full turn
my right leg going up.
before
bend
to
my
jump.
right leg,
So one more time. I want to rewind one more time.
kick my left leg up.
Even more, sorry.
My
Yeah,
right
from here.
hand. Then kick my left leg up like I said. Follow
Yeah,
with
very,
the right,
very, very
keep
wide.
it on
And
spread.
you see how long he's waiting on the first hand?
Swoop my left.
He's not doing 1-2, placing his hands very quickly on the floor, but he's placing one arm on the floor with his hand twisted. Then he really wait for doing a big circle with his body, and then he's leaning the second hand and then throwing.
Leg down. Keep my right leg going
Here,
up.
even before throwing, he's still not jumping, you see?
Up.
He's still with this arm on the floor. So he's waiting, waiting,
right.
waiting, waiting,
Right.
waiting. As you can see here, he start opening his chest, and this hand is still on the floor. Even though he's already opening his chest, many people jump too early. So here, many people will already jump, you know? But if you jump too early, if you don't have enough momentum, you will fall. In order to jump properly, you need to wait. Maybe when someone do the Airflare fast, you will not really notice that they will wait. It will seem like very continuous and very fast movement. But actually, when we do the Airflare, we feel like we are waiting on each arm, you know? We don't feel like we are just leaning and then jumping very quickly. And most beginners do like this. They just lean the hand, and then try to jump. No, it's a lot about leaning, waiting, waiting, opening the chest, and then jumping.
Kick it.
Yeah, he start jumping now that his legs already pushed off the floor. So first the leg push and then the
Swoop my
jump.
left leg up.
He start to
Jump.
jump. And also if the later you jump, the smaller the jump. So if you try to jump too early, the jump will be so big, you know, and you will need a lot of momentum. But if you jump very late, you don't need so much momentum. You can even do slow Airflares.
Keep my right leg going up. Bend.
That's why I actually recommend to start practicing Airflares a little bit slow. So don't use full momentum when you start practicing Airflares, because by using full momentums, you can mess up the technique a little bit and you will not really understand the leaning and the timing. If you practice very slowly, it's going to be harder, of course, but you're going to figure out when exactly to jump and how long to lean.
My right leg, kick it. Swoop my left leg up. Jump to that right arm fast. Keeping the body solid, tight the entire time. Now every Airflare after the first one is just like the first one. So if you catch the first one into the second one,
Yeah, this is obvious, right? Every airflare after the first one is exactly like the first one. This is very obvious concept, but I don't know why for me this tip really helped me. The first one who gave me this tip was B-Boy Marcio. I could do only maybe 4 or 5 airflares at that time. I just learned multiple airflares very recently. And then I attended one workshop from B-Boy Marcio from France. He's very, very good in airflares. And he told me that my airflare looked like rushed. Like I'm trying to do as many as possible, you know? I'm doing the first round pretty well. And then very quickly I'm trying to do the second and then the third and then the fourth to do as many rounds as possible. Some people, they try to do the same with hand ups. So they want to do as many hops as possible. And so they don't do one hand up, one hand up, one hand up, but they do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like this, kind of like rushing to do as many as possible. And Marcio told me, don't try to do as many airflare as possible. Don't rush, but try to do one airflare and then one airflare and then one airflare, but without stopping, all in the same combo without dropping your feet down. So I tried again with the mindset, okay, I'm gonna do one airflare. As soon as I finish the airflare, I will redo the first airflare and then I will redo the first airflare again. So I will count like this, 1, 1, 1, instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4. And this really made me have a rhythm in my head. So this tip, even if it seems obvious, I think it's pretty useful for people who rush a lot like I used to do at the beginning. Yeah, especially if you use a lot of momentum. Maybe for some people, they don't need this tip so much, maybe because their technique is already good enough. But for those whose technique is not perfect and who kick very strong and rush a lot in the airflare to do as many rounds as possible, as quick as possible, really don't think about doing 1, 2, 3, but think about doing 1, 1, 1, and so on. And when I try like this, I immediately kind of unlock how to do multiple rounds and how to do even over 10 and over 15 rounds of airflare. Then it became only a matter of stamina. It was not anymore a matter of technique. So I kind of switched my mindset. The airflare before was a matter of technique for me. Immediately after switching this mindset, it became just a matter of stamina.
Multiple, it's all the same. Always think about doing more than one. Don't get stuck on doing one. Have the mindset of doing like 10 plus. It'll really help you get 2, 3, and so on. Now, multiple airflares will just come with practice. You need to develop the strength, the coordination, but if you can do one and then a second crappy one, all it is practice and working on keeping your hips up, keeping your legs going up, and jumping to your arm quickly enough. Remember to keep practicing, that's the most important part. I hope this tutorial helps you all out. Thank you guys
So I think this is a pretty good tutorial. The only things that are missing, in my opinion, is one, talking about combos, for me is essential. Second, second, I will also talk a little bit more about the pike freeze. It's not mandatory for everyone, but for most people, the pike freeze will be very useful. So I will spend a little bit more time explaining how to turn your chest and open up your shoulder and doing some exercises with the pike freeze in order to learn this movement pattern. And yeah, I think only that. Besides that, it was pretty good tutorial, I think. Maybe I'm forgetting some information at the moment, but yeah, if I forget something and then I got it in mind, I will talk in the next reactions, in the next videos. Let me move on. Now this is a tutorial from Hironaga. And this tutorial has even more views, has almost 1 million, 800,000. I'm pretty jealous, guys. How can you get so many views? I never got one Airflare tutorial with so many views. I guess I need to try to use a very simple title like this, just how to Airflare, very simple. I don't know if it's because of the title or maybe because the tutorial is pretty short or maybe because it doesn't talk to in the tutorial. But yeah, let's see. So his form, you can already see, is pretty different from Pygmy already. He also spins in the same direction like Pygmy. What is the difference between Pygmy form and this guy form? He also bounces this leg like a hand up, like pygmy, but not so deeply. So the way he bounces this leg is only a little bit. Pygmy used a little bit more bounce. He used more momentum. So his Airflare is relying more on momentum, less on bounce. And also, as you can see, his throwing arm is not straight, it's bent. Many people do that. Many people bend their arm while throwing. Personally, for me, I don't like it. I like very straight arm Airflares. It looks cleaner for me. But yeah, some people do it like this. I don't know why they don't fix it. Maybe they like it like this. I don't know. It's very easy to fix, in my opinion. And yeah, if I would be him, I would try to fix it. But maybe it's just personal taste. So yeah, one more thing you can notice here. He's a little bit leaning over with his shoulder, a little bit over his wrist. So his shoulder and his wrist are not aligned. So his shoulder basically is not over his wrist, but his wrist or hand is a little bit more, in this case, on the left side, you know. So this is because I think a lack of flexibility. It's also related to this leg. Usually people who do a deeper pike freeze, so a deeper hand up position or deeper pike, instead of leaning like this, instead of doing this movement, they open up more. So here, as you can see, his chest is still facing towards the floor, kind of like in a diagonal angle. His chest here is facing, oh, sorry. Okay, here. Yeah, here is almost about to throw, but his chest is still facing here. For pygmy, he will turn his chest a little more and this leg will be a little bit more piked. Personally, I like pygmy form better, but I can feel like they have different level of flexibility probably from how they do airflow. Probably not legs flexibility, but shoulders flexibility, because his legs flexibility looks pretty good when he lands. Oh, here you can see he opened his leg a lot, but on his throwing arm, when he's about to throw here, he's not fully opening the shoulder. And in this case, if you don't fully open the shoulder in the Airflare, also your leg's shape will change a little bit depending on your shoulder. Three factors that are necessary to master Airflares. Let's see. Handstand. Okay, you also use handstand as the first one. For me personally, yeah, as I said before, handstand is pretty important for the Airflare, but I wouldn't put it number one. For me, number one would be air freezes on both sides. Doing air freeze. I'm not talking about pike freezes, I'm talking about air freezes. Air freezes, I mean on the side, so without opening your chest, just being able to do air freeze and opening your legs widely, just like a wide shape of the legs, kind of like a side freeze with wide legs and straight legs, just this basic freeze here. This is for me the main priority, the main fundamental of the Airflare, not the handstand. Being able to do at least one other power move, especially halo. Okay, this I would say not only one other power move. I would say more. I would say in order to do Airflares, you need to know at least, I would say minimum 2 power moves. But if you can do more than 2, for example 3, 4, 5, it would be much better. The more power moves you have before Airflares, the better chances that you will learn Airflares pretty fast. Of course, it depends also on which power moves. For example, if you have as your basic power move turtles, crickets, and UFOs, these 3 moves are not going to be useful for Airflares, you know. Or maybe a little bit for very low Airflares can be useful, but not for normal Airflares or for high Airflares. So you need to know, at least I would say, windmills, and then you can switch depending on which kind of Airflare technique you want to learn. If you want to learn high or vertical Airflare, the spinning handstand I would say is mandatory. If you are not practicing the vertical or high Airflare, I would say flares or swipes. Even both, actually. And halos, of course, it's useful also. By air freeze, I mean this freeze here that you just did. this freeze here, air freeze, is what I call air freeze. I don't know if it has any other name. For me, I just call it air freeze because it's just a very basic, yeah, air freeze. I don't know how to say in other words. Maybe you can call it straddle Nike, straddle one arm freeze, something like this. Yeah, but this freeze is the basic, in my opinion, for the Airflare on both sides. And you need to be careful, your legs shouldn't scissor. Some people, they scissor a little bit the legs in this freeze, almost if it is like a front split. But the split, in all the power moves, the legs are never in a front split. They are always in a middle split. The legs should be kind of like this and not like this. This is wrong. In all the power moves, the legs are never kicking like this, but they are always kicking like this. So this is what I call a middle split. This is what I call a front split. So in this case, in this video, in this frame that you are seeing, he's doing a middle split or a pancake, if you want to call it pancake, or how to call it, straddle, maybe straddle position. And also on the opposite hand, same thing. If you cannot do it properly on one side, don't count it. Really learn it properly on both sides, with your legs in a straddle or pancake or middle split position, not front split. Front split is going to be useless. If you add a little hop while doing this, it's going to be very useful. Higher the position of the hip. I do not recommend to beginner. Okay, this is not a really valid tip in my opinion. This is his way of learning Airflare, but it depends. Actually, the angle of the hip and how much to pike. So here is comparing basically an air freeze with almost like a pike freeze. He's not really piking so much, a little, but yeah, he's quite decent pike. But it's not like this freeze is wrong and this freeze is right. Both are right, actually. It depends what kind of form of Airflare you want to achieve. Actually, I would recommend this freeze even more, especially if you want to become more flexible, because in this freeze here, you need to twist your hips and your spine and open up your shoulder and your chest. So this freeze here is going to be way more useful than this freeze here to stretch your body. If you want to become more flexible, practice this one. If you want to just practice very basic for the Airflare, practice this, okay? But if you really want to level up your flexibility, your mobility, and level up even your Airflare, I would say to practice this. Actually, here is also talking about the hip position, but actually the hip in both freezes are the same height. So I don't know what he means by that. He's just twisting more in this one and twisting less in this one. Kind of like side position and up position. But he's not really going fully up. If you want to do this freeze properly, actually this arm should be facing up, and the chest should be more open like this. He's a little bit like this, but he should be more like this. But maybe he's not flexible enough, I'm not sure. Yeah, he's not fully opening the chest too much. He should open a little more. But from the way he does Airflare, it makes me think that he's not that flexible on the shoulder and on the chest, on this muscle here, the pec and the shoulder muscles, basically. You need to stretch this part of the body, the front of the shoulder, and the higher part and the side part of the pec. Yeah, he's not really piking so much, actually. Oh, here he pike a little more, I think. Yeah, in my opinion, giving tips like this, it's a little bit misleading, because people will think, oh, maybe I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing the pike, but I'm wrong. Actually, the pike is correct. It's even better than the air freeze for Airflares. Maybe for him it's not useful because he learned Airflare in another way, but I think he should specify this. He should tell that this is the way I learned the Airflare, and so the pike didn't work for me, but for most of other people's, they supposed to work, actually. Yeah, this is solid handstand. Also this, this is not necessarily wrong. Okay, if you wanna have a very good handstand in general, this handstand on the left side would be more correct than this handstand on the right side. But for Airflare specifically, maybe actually this handstand can be even more useful than this handstand, sorry guys. Because Airflare is a little bit diagonal. So actually this handstand here mimics a little better the Airflare movement pattern. So doing something like this, in my opinion, is a little bit misleading. Also because for the Airflare, there are so many different techniques, so many different body angles. You cannot really say wrong and right. You should only say this works for someone, this works for someone else. It depends, okay? I think I couldn't do this when I started learning Airflare. I couldn't swing my handstand was not so stable like this to be able to swing my legs. Also, this movement here with the legs can be useful if you're practicing the high Airflare, the vertical Airflare, to have a very solid handstand control. But if you're practicing a little bit lower Airflare, this swinging is not very useful for Airflares. You don't need this type of control. The type of control that you need is different. It's like switching and moving your body from one side to the other. Here you're just staying still and you're just moving the legs. But actually the legs are never moving like this in an Airflare. They're moving in a different way. They're always moving together like this. They are never swinging in this way, you know? But they are always moving together. So this movement pattern with the legs can even, in my opinion, mess up a little bit your Airflare technique because it will teach you the wrong movement pattern with the legs. It can be good for general handstand control, but it's wrong for the sake of learning the correct shape of the Airflare with the correct leg technique. I want to see how Kaio reacts to Sambo's Airflare tutorial. Oh yeah, I'm also gonna react to Sambo's tutorial later. I agree. This kind of scissor legs will make the Airflare form very ugly. Yes, exactly. As you will notice at the beginning of the video when he shows his Airflare, he's a little bit swinging one leg when he does Airflare. That's probably because he practiced this exercise. This exercise will make you swing the legs more and kind of have a scissor form in the Airflare. In my opinion, it's not so good. It's good if you want to learn this specific type of Airflare by scissoring the legs, but this specific form of Airflare will give you hard times learning variations, like learning cross-leg Airflares, or maybe people call it Munch Airflare or Baby Airflare. Or even any other variation will be harder because your legs will not move together like this, but they will scissor. And then it's gonna be so hard to control. Step 4. Why? This is also pretty useless in my opinion. Why jumping by scissoring the legs? I would teach jumping with the legs like this, you know, because in the Airflare you need to push straight up. He keep explaining the scissoring form, but scissoring is never used in the Airflare. Only if you really use this specific form. But I really wouldn't recommend this form to anyone. Maybe only for people who are very unflexible on their pec and in their shoulder. They really have hard times opening their arms and shoulder like this. And their middle split is also very bad, but maybe they have a front split who is decent. They have pretty good front splits in both sides. Then in this specific case, if your shoulders and pecs are very stiff, and if your middle split is very stiff, but your front splits are pretty good, then maybe in this case you can learn the Airflare by scissoring the legs and by trying to use a lot of momentum. But I would prefer to tell these people to stretch more in the required stretching that they need instead of learning this technique, in my personal opinion. I watched this tutorial before. Hironaga is amazing, but he never explained how to twist your hips and pike later, so not the best tutorial I feel. I see. Later when you see Sambo's tutorial, you will realize his tutorial is flawed too. If b-boys don't realize how to twist their hip, they will do spinning handstand, hop, and not travel in a circle. Oh, yeah, I see. I know one guy who did a pretty good Airflare tutorial explaining the vertical form, kind of like Sambo does, I think. Later I'm also gonna react to this tutorial of this guy. I think he did the best Airflare tutorial of the high and vertical Airflare. I'm not talking about the regular Airflare, 45 degrees, I'm talking about the vertical one. If we're talking about this Airflare, this guy did the best tutorial. What was his name? I forgot. Okay, I will see later. Also this exercise, in my opinion. Yeah. As you can see, he really used the scissor. This exercise here, yeah, in my opinion, is pretty useless if you want to learn like the regular Airflare form. It can even mess up your form. Actually, this tutorial is good for someone who really need this specific form for some reason. Maybe they are very inflexible. But for people who want to learn Airflare regularly in a normal shape, this tutorial can be pretty confusing and it can even mess up their form. So this exercise here, as you can see here, his legs are kind of like in a 90 form. This is not a really correct Airflare shape. It's swinging and this leg is scissoring backwards. Sometimes I also do it like this because the way I learned Airflare long time ago was also a little bit scissoring the legs, but the way I learn, it doesn't necessarily mean is the most effective and the best way to learn it. I learn it in this way, as I told you before, because I got very strong foundation in power moves, but not very good hand-ups on my throwing hand. But then I fixed my form. And as soon as I fixed my form, I unlocked some variations that were impossible for me to do before. For example, when I had this kind of scissoring leg form, it was so hard for me to do baby Airflares or any other combo with Airflare. But then as soon as I fixed this leg shape, my Airflare got much better. And finally, I could do many more transitions with the Airflare and variations. What is that? What is that? I do not understand what it means by this leg movement. Yeah, he's really teaching how to scissor the legs. Pretty weird. This is maybe the first tutorial that I ever see that really teaches to scissor the legs in the Airflare. Usually people teach to not scissor the legs. This tutorial does the opposite. It really teaches you, you need to swing this leg back and not push it like a hand up, but swing it back. Okay, it may work for some people, but usually it's not the most effective way. Sorry, maybe I'm a little bit repeating myself, but I want really that my thoughts are clear. Yeah, I will react to Coach Sambo tutorials later also. Oh, interesting. He even teach to swing and then kick only with the foot. Not with the knee, but with the foot. Also, this is something that usually people tell to avoid. Not to kick with the foot, but kick with the knee. But he teach the opposite. So here I would say this knee should be lower and you're supposed to kick with the knee, with this knee here. But he do the opposite. This knee is very high here. So at this point he cannot kick with the knee anymore because the knee already is in the highest position that it can be. So in this position here, he can only kick with the foot. He cannot kick with the knee anymore. And then, as you can see, he kicks up with the foot. Pretty weird form. I personally don't like it. And I also don't like the arm form. As you can see, he's bending his arm. Really bending. And then making it straight before landing. The landing form actually is pretty good. This form here is pretty solid. But the throwing form is not good in my opinion. I'm a little bit sad that the most viewed Airflare tutorial on YouTube, this video has 800,000 views, but teaches the Airflare in this way. Even Pygmy tutorial was better, but still have a lot of views actually, but I would prefer Pygmy tutorial to have more views than this one. If you want to learn Airflare in this technique, in this way like he teaches in this tutorial, spinning handstand is very necessary, very useful. And also I would even recommend to learn some 90s on both sides, like 90s and also reverse 90s, to learn this type of Airflare. But yeah, for lower Airflare you don't need spinning handstand so much, and you don't need 90s and reverse 90s if you want to learn the lower version of the Airflare. It depends what kind of variation you want to learn. So let's move on with the next tutorial. Oh, next one from Sambo, 12 minutes, Ultimate Airflare Tutorials. It's 5 years ago. Also this one has pretty decent amount of views, 78,000, good. Let me read the comments.
Warning, being in possession of...
No scissoring at all. I think he focuses more on the arm strength. It's not really strength on the arms. The arm strength is the same actually. If you're doing the lower Airflare or the higher Airflare, the amount of strength you need to have on the shoulders or on the arms is the same. What changes is the requirements, is the basics needed. For example, if you want to learn the vertical Airflare or the higher Airflare, the requirement would be the spinning handstand, the 90, the reverse 90, a lot of handstand variations. If you want to learn the regular Airflare immediately, so the 45-degree handstand or even lower, the requirement would be more like the swipe, the flare, the windmill, and the pike freezes, not so much, and the hand-ups, not so much the spinning handstand itself. So it depends on the form you want to achieve. It changes the basics you need to have. Between the high and low Airflare, which do you think is more versatile, if any? Versatile, if you mean like to learn new variations and combos, high Airflare would be better. Actually, high Airflare, it depends on the leg shape. So in the previous tutorial, this b-boy Hironaga, I think is called, he also did a pretty vertical Airflare, a little bit lower than, for example, Sambo is explaining, I think. But still, I would still consider it a pretty high Airflare. But with this leg shape, it's pretty hard to learn combos and variations. But if you learn the correct leg shape by pushing up with both knees and both legs at the same time, it's more similar to Pygmy, how Pygmy teach, or even how I teach, then this Airflare variation, high and with correct leg shape, will allow you to unlock many different variations. If your Airflare is too low, this could be also an issue. I had this issue in the past. I learned Airflare too low at the beginning, and so I really had hard times learning variations. But then when I fixed my form and my Airflare got a little bit higher, then I could learn cross legs Airflares and combos like elbow track to Airflare and Airflare to 90 or Airflare to reverse 90, something like this. Yeah, high one is more versatile if you mean like in terms of combos and in terms of variations. So actually, if you're flexible enough, I would recommend you to learn high Airflare first and then to get lower with time. The problem is not everybody has this degree of flexibility that people need to learn high Airflare, because you really need to have very good shoulder flexion, this movement of the shoulder here. Some people are very stuck, even me too. Now I'm improving because I'm doing a lot of stretching, but until some years ago my shoulder was stuck here. I couldn't really lift my shoulder over my head and doing hollow backs or even doing bridges. The bridge was impossible for me. In this way, it's going to be impossible to throw a high Airflare with your hands over your head, you know, backwards, I mean. I see. Thank you, Kon and Kaio. I don't have very good flexible middle splits pancake, but my shoulder flexibility is okay. So I'm just practicing star walks, handstand, walking, circle. I see. Make sure, be careful, because the shoulder is very complicated. So it doesn't really exist a flexible shoulder in general. Of course, there are some people who are flexible in general, but you can be flexible in different ways in the shoulders. There is this type of shoulder flexibility that is called extension, which is very useful for flares. And some people are very flexible in this, me included. I'm pretty good with this type of shoulder flexibility, but I'm not good with this shoulder flexibility. This is called shoulder flexion. This type of shoulder flexibility here, in this direction, over your head, behind your head, is the same shoulder flexibility that we use for bridges, for hollowbacks, for inverts in some cases, and in vertical airflare. So if you want to learn vertical airflare, you don't need to have this type of shoulder flexibility, but you need to have this type of shoulder flexibility. So be careful about that, because maybe some people have this type of shoulder flexibility and they will think, oh, my shoulder flexibility is very good, so why I cannot do this airflare like this? Because it's two different types of shoulder flexibility. And then there is even other types. So for example, the type for air chair is even different actually. So let's start with this tutorial.
One or multiple airflares does not solve your life problems and does not make you win battles. By watching this video, you agree to the terms and policies and keep
Pretty
investing
funny.
in other elements such as your style and footwork. Now give me 5 motherfucking push-ups.
It took me
5
6 years
push-ups.
to learn how to do air flares.
It's crazy, right?
Just because I was throwing myself like an idiot.
But I learned my Airflare in 2 years. All thanks to the techniques you will learn in this video. Coming up.
Airflare, the new power move standard.
His form, Sambo form, is a little bit a mix between Pygmy and the other guy Hironaga form. As you can see here in this frame, his leg is bouncing more than Hironaga but less than Pygmy, and this arm is bending similar to Hironaga but a little bit less bent than Hironaga, a little more straight. So his form is like a hybrid between Hironaga and Pygmy. But the way he teach the airflare is not the same way, I think, how he learned the airflare, you know? Same like me, actually. The way I learn airflare is not the same way as I teach the airflare. Because you always improve with time, actually. If someone just teach you one move based on how they learn, they're not really maybe understanding a move. They are just telling from their experience. But you should see your personal experience, yes, but you should also see around you other people. So for example, I see that my method, I mean, not the method I teach, but the method I learned airflare doesn't work on other people, and they learn airflare in different ways. So I try to evolve my mindset and try to think, oh, maybe this method has some value, this other method has some other values, my method has some issue or have some values, I don't know. I will try to use a method that works for most of people, and this method should be adaptable for any people because everybody is a little bit different. Oh, also his student is bending his arm, but the legs here are pretty good, in a pretty good shape.
Techniques you will learn in this video. Coming up.
A little bit similar to Sambo, just more flexible actually,
Airflare,
the student.
the new power move standard. This video is dedicated to the brave who helped shape the move as we know it today, and those who are taking the airflare to the next level.
Ooh, this airflare is crazy. This is B-Boy Nazim. This one. Phew. Look at this leg. That's crazy. So flexible.
To the next level.
I think this is my favorite airflare form that I ever seen.
In recent times, with
See little
countless
pocket.
variations and possibilities, the airflare has actually no higher value than other
Tiger,
moves,
right?
but many believe
Bobby.
it does. This video is also dedicated to you.
What's up, guys?
Pretty good editing actually, and I like the fact that he shows other b-boys as well with different techniques. Pretty good.
This is your man, Coach Sambo, right here taking things to that next level again, here with the most epic airflare tutorial ever made. So first of all, don't forget to hit that subscribe button right there, so you can stay notified every time I upload a new video with some more high quality breaking stuff. So for today in this video, I have 3 very special guests that have recently learned their Airflares. All 3 have completely different body types, ages, and experience level. Basically proving you that there are no excuses, because literally anybody can Airflare, including you.
Hello, my name is Diego. I'm 12 years old and I'm breaking for 5 years. I learned my Airflares really quick, and now today I'm doing some crazy combos and working on one-handed Airflare.
Hi guys, my name is Beagle Kamin, training with Battle Droids crew coached by Coach Sambo. I'm 24 years old, I've been breaking for 8 years now. As a Beagle, in the beginning, I never thought I would do Airflares. But now, as you can see in this video, anything is possible. Pay good attention to what Coach Sambo is saying and let's get working.
Yo, what's up guys, this is Turkey Turkey. I am one of Sambo's best friends and I'm 40 years old. Recently learned my Airflares.
40?
I've been trying and I'm 40 years old.
40? He's 40, this guy. He looks younger.
This is Turkey Turkey. I am one of Sambo's best friends and I'm 40 years old.
Maybe he means 30. I don't know.
Recently learned my Airflares. I've been trying this Airflare for years and years. But with this technique, it really started to work, guys. If I can learn this Airflare at 40 years old, what's your excuse?
40.
So now that you know a
40.
little more about our special guests, they will be
Props
showing you the
if you
steps
learn
needed
Airflare
to
at 40.
get to your Airflare destination. So a great and smart way to speed up the whole process of learning Airflare is by mastering the right basics. Basic windmill, flare, a decent handstand.
Okay, he started from windmill, right? Yeah, I think he started in a pretty right order. I would also recommend windmill as one of the first. I will start, as I said before, with air freezes. For me, it's even more basic than the windmill for Airflare. But if we want to talk about power moves, so windmill will be the first, because windmill teaches you the leg shape in the Airflare. Actually, windmill and Airflare, the leg movement is almost the same. It's pretty similar. The only difference is that in the Airflare there is more bounce with one leg and more swing with one leg. In the windmill, the legs are bouncing at the same time and they are moving more equally, let's say.
Also, the spinning handstand.
Spinning handstand, as I said before, it will be a prerequisite only if you are learning vertical Airflares. For me, for example, I learned Airflares without knowing how to do the spinning handstand. Because as I told you, my handstand was pretty embarrassing when I learned Airflares. So that's why my Airflare were pretty low at first. But as soon as you get higher in the Airflares, the higher you get, the more useful the spinning handstand will be.
Power kick, and not to forget the one-hand hops on both sides.
These that he mentioned actually are pretty good basics. I would also recommend the same. I will add only the pike freezes and the air freezes that he didn't mention, but all the other basics are on point.
They're all major game changers when it comes to the art.
Oh, one more thing. I already know, I think, because I think I already see this tutorial in the past, that he teaches the Airflare in a vertical way, right? But he didn't mention the hollow back or the bridge as prerequisites. So I would also add the bridge and the hollow back or the invert as prerequisites for his specific way of learning Airflares. For me, for my way of learning Airflares, a little lower, I wouldn't say that you need bridges or you need inverts or you need hollowbacks, but for this kind of variation, I will say, yeah, you need those moves.
Learning Airflare. Now, of course, I have next level tutorials on all of these basics, of which the link shall be displayed in the description down below.
Oh, Bruce and Mighty, yeah. I remember Bruce and Mighty Airflare tutorial. It was pretty interesting. I will add it. I will add it to the reaction list.
Learn the Airflare without the knowledge of these basics. However, it's not going to pay off as well as you think.
Trust me.
A decent flexibility in your hips and in your shoulders is
Oh,
also...
okay. He's mentioning the bridge. So that's good, actually. Yeah. He's mentioning all the basics properly. Pretty good job.
A major game changer. So don't forget to stretch out properly a few times a week, and especially after your practice sessions. What, you think these Airflares are going to come cheap?
You gotta put in the work, bro.
So there are different ways of learning Airflare. The most common and traditional way is just throwing yourself into the dark. And with a little luck, you might have some natural gift or...
Okay. Here is a little bit, in my opinion, dissing the just throwing, because I know he's teaching the vertical way, who is a little bit different. But for some b-boys, it's true. You're just throwing yourself in the dark when you are attempting the first Airflares. But in my opinion, I don't see it in this way. When you learn a very good swipe and you have very good power fundamentals and very good pike freezes on both sides, you are not really throwing yourself in the dark. You're throwing yourself, of course, you're gonna fall with at least 1 foot on the floor at first, but you already have enough body, and if you got the basics down, you already have enough body control and body understanding to not throw yourself in the dark, but to have like a pretty good jump and to fall not like this kid is falling at the moment, but just to fall with 1 foot on the floor, but still be stable with the arms and still be stable with the upper body, because you should have swipes, in my opinion. Or you should have the exercise that Pygmy showed in his tutorials when you're just throwing yourself from one arm to the other. So it's not like throwing yourself in the dark like he's saying in this video.
Ability that teaches you how to get the Airflare on lock quickly. But most, including myself, take up to 4 to 5 years to actually unlock just 1, 2, or maybe 3 Airflares by using this so-called method. The other method is one that I have developed after understanding the Airflare a lot better once I learned it. And this method is basically called the walkover Airflare method or technique. Now the walkover Airflare is actually a variation.
I understand that you want to teach this method. The only thing I don't like so much that he uses this method almost as if it's a special method that he developed with time, and of course it works for a lot of his students, but usually this method works very well if you are a kid or if you are a girl. Why? Because it involves a lot of shoulder flexibility, shoulder flexion flexibility, as I mentioned before, this type of flexibility. This shoulder flexion flexibility can be developed pretty easily when you're young, or for girls is pretty natural. As you can see, most of beginners can do bridges, most of girls in general can do bridges, and they can also do inverts or hollowbacks. So most of Sambo students are kids. If you see adults try this technique, they can still learn Airflare with this technique actually, but usually it looks a little bit ugly. They cannot develop so much shoulder flexibility if they don't work specifically on the shoulder flexibility and back flexibility separately. So if you want to teach this method to an adult, you should also work separately on a lot of flexibility work. Otherwise, his form is not gonna adapt over time like in the kid's case or in the girl's case. So maybe he has a lot of experience with the kids and he sees that this method is working with most of them, but you can see when you're teaching this method to adults, it's not working so well anymore. It can work, but as I said before, the form becomes pretty ugly form. If you want to teach a proper form, it's better sometimes. It depends case by case, but you need to be a little bit more open-minded and flexible. Sometimes you need to switch methods and you need to teach in a lower angle. It depends on the person.
That developed after the Airflare and mostly performed by...
Of course, the guy in his 40s, if you see his form, wait, I'm gonna show you again. It's not a really good form actually. Pretty decent, but I don't know his degree of flexibility. So this one case, one b-boy cannot be an example for many, because maybe for him it worked, but as I mentioned, the form will not be the best.
One of Sambo's best friends, and I'm 40 years old.
So see his form.
Learned
It's not bad actually. You can also see he has a pretty good flexibility here. He's opening his chest a lot. So probably this form for him worked pretty well because he was naturally already pretty decently flexible. So, but if you take, for example, 10 different adults, I'm a little bit doubtful that it will work so well like it worked for him. I think for most of adults, they will have kind of like a banana form, you know? Or maybe, yeah, I don't know, a ugly or weird form. Sorry, I need to do it again. I need to show you. It sucks because it kind of makes it seem like it's the only right way to do. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you.
Over Airflare method or technique. Now the walkover Airflare is actually a variation that developed after the Airflare and mostly performed by flexible b-boys. As you can see, b-boy Brahim right here from Pokemon Crew absolutely devour.
Okay, the way Brahim does the walkover Airflare actually is different from the way Sambo teaches the walkover Airflare. Brahim is using shoulder extension flexibility, not shoulder flexion. So he's not doing the walkover in this way, but he's doing the walkover in this way. That requires a lot of shoulder extension. So it's a little bit different technique. And he's crazy flexible in the shoulder extension. It's pretty crazy, actually. It's so rare to have so much shoulder extension flexibility.
These walkover airflares. However, the walkover method is just a genius way to learn the airflare because it gives you the ability and the time to adapt to the landing part of the airflare. And the landing part of the airflare is kind of the hardest part. Most people struggle years with landing a good airflare. So by slowly performing walkover airflares,
yeah, exactly.
you're
Brahim
basically
is different.
teaching and
Brahim
showing-
uses a totally different shoulder angle in his walkovers. He's not the same angle like Sambo teaches. He's also not vertical. He's pretty low in his walkover airflares. But I wouldn't recommend almost anyone to learn walkovers like Brahim. Only for very, very extremely flexible people in the shoulder extension stretch. So this kind of stretch here. That's usually these kind of people also have crazy flares. So Brahim also have crazy flare in the front part because he's so flexible in his shoulder that his hips in the flare are lifting up so much.
your muscle
Or another good example is B-boy stretch.
memory, where you have to be for that perfect landing position. Once you know how to land a good airflare, it gives you access to the next airflare or the following move you might want to combine with it. Now, people that learn the airflare with the walkover method usually have some weird looking vertical airflares at first, but after a while, form starts to get a lot
Okay,
better. And
this is where I don't agree so much with Sambo. I agree in the part that he say the form looks pretty weird at the beginning. It's true. But I don't agree necessarily that the form is going to develop and get better with time. It depends. As I said before, for kids and for girls, probably it will get better with time because their muscles are more adaptable. Their bodies are more adaptable. So as soon as they keep practicing, their body will naturally develop enough flexibility for the airflare and it will look better. Of course, they also need to work on the technique and try to fix the form. It's not like just magically fix itself, so they should try to fix it themselves. But for most of adults, if you're learning airflares with this method when you're an adult, in most of cases, the form will not adjust itself. You need a lot of work, especially flexibility work, and it requires a lot of time.
because of this high angle technique, people usually get a lot of advantage when learning certain variations of airflare and also vertical combos.
This is true. I agree a lot with Sambo. If you learn airflare with this technique, you will have so easy time doing combos because your airflare basically is already in the correct angle to connect reverse 90 and 90, or any airflare variation will be easier with a higher angle, you know. So in this case, I agree.
And it gets even better than that. After a while, people that have learned their airflare from the vertical position develop the luxury of being able to choose if they want to do low airflares or high airflares. People that learn the airflare just by throwing themselves with a low angle usually get stuck with the low angle. Now don't get me wrong, it looks really good, but people with low angled airflares usually have a hard time doing these kind of combos.
Here, I don't necessarily agree also. It depends on the intention, you know. Usually people who learn the vertical airflare, they feel like, oh, I still didn't get a proper airflare because the proper airflare is 45 degrees actually, or around 45 degrees. So in their mindset, they will be like, I need to fix my form and I need to get lower most of times. But people who learn directly airflare with a 45 degrees angle or lower, maybe they will not think actively, okay, I need to fix my airflare, I need to make it higher. They will just keep it in this way. So that it will make it seem like they have harder time to fix their form, but it's not like that. Actually, if they want, they can fix their form. For me, I fix my form actually. I learn airflare pretty low, but then I realize, oh, with this low airflare, I cannot connect airflare to 90, for example, or airflare to handstand. So I work on my form, and then I fixed it. So it's not like too hard or too impossible to fix it. You just need to do it, you know. Same thing as the opposite way. So if you have a high airflare, you need to fix it to make it lower. It's the same thing, just opposite way around, you know. So in both cases, you can still fix your form. You just need to consciously and actively know what do you need to fix exactly.
combos and variations, like me. Also not to forget is that the walkover method is a way smarter way to exercise your Airflare because the risk of injuring yourself is just so much smaller. So what method do I recommend you guys to learn? Well, you guessed it right, the walkover.
B-Boy Slinky. I think some tutorials still teach the lower form. Now, for example, there is B-Boy Drago from Italy, actually. I know this guy, he's my friend. He also teaches the Airflare pretty low already. He's also pretty flexible. Maybe you see him on Instagram. He's not so active on YouTube, I think, but he's more active on Instagram. His name is Drago Sayan. Shout out to him, by the way. If you want, go check out his Instagram because his content is pretty good. He's also have good knowledge on the body in general. He's not only a b-boy, he's also doing a lot of different workout and stretches. So he has pretty good knowledge. And he always teaches also the lower angle Airflare immediately. Sometimes maybe he's too radical, I would say. Sometimes I think people need to be a little bit more open-minded. So without teaching one form necessarily only. For me, I even made some tutorials where I teach the vertical form, you know. And I also say I'm not against the vertical form, but some people just say, oh, you need to learn like this, you need to learn like this. In my opinion, it's a little bit wrong, and it depends case by case. So some people need to learn in one way, some other people need to learn another way, depending on their body shape, how old they are, and different factors, you know. So yeah, I think still people teach the lower technique also.
Method. And I actually have proof that the walkover method is just the smartest way. As you can see, my students right here.
Yeah, he keeps saying that the walkover is the smartest way, but he takes as a reference mostly teenagers or kids.
Successfully learned the Airflare all by using this walkover technique.
For example, even in Chinese kids, I'm not sure if the Chinese kids, and even in Taiwan, the level is pretty high in power moves. Everybody can do Airflare basically, but they're not learning from walkover method. So it's okay that he teaches his own method, but for me, it's not okay that he sells it as if this is the best method that anyone can use. It's the best method for some specific type of people, but for other people, it can be another method can work better. And also, I think Chinese kids are the proof. Maybe some of them also learn the walkover, I don't know actually. But most of them, I'm pretty sure they learn already the lower angle Airflare. Especially the ones I saw, and also the ones in Taiwan, because I know one of their coaches.
I definitely recommend you to check out this video, where my students basically share a little bit of their story when learning their Airflare. So you can check out their evolution. You can watch this video later by just clicking right here, or the link will be somewhere in the description down below. So it all starts right here with pikes on both sides, which is also...
Yes, exactly, Con. Yeah, pikes on both sides, this is good advice. I like it.
Really good warm-up for your Airflare. But when breaking down the Airflare to its core essence, Airflare is basically just a hop from one pike to the other. So obviously, the more comfortable you are in pikes, the faster you will learn the Airflare. Enter your pikes as you would do in a car.
Yeah, this I agree. The Airflare is basically pike to pike, or air freeze to air freeze, depending how much you're leaning on the shoulder and how much you're opening your chest and opening your shoulders.
Legs stretched and open, hips forwards, chest up with that arm stretched to the back behind you. And try to work on as much hang time as possible to speed up the comfort process. Fantastic warm-up. Now the next step is performing a cartwheel from one pike to the other, getting you used to the angles of the Airflare and the mechanics of the walkover Airflare. Now when performing
this is a very good exercise. And yeah, if you want to learn in this way, like he explained, I think this is the best method to use to start from a cartwheel. Really understanding how to tuck your chin in, to look up to the ceiling or to the sky, not to look at the floor anymore like a cartwheel, and also how to hop in a cartwheel to make this bounce happen and this jump happen.
Exercise, you want to start.
But of course, even here, even in this exercise, you need to be flexible. Actually, you need to have an invert. If you don't have an invert, this exercise will look a little weird and ugly. It will never look like a proper jump of the Airflare. It will look like more a hopped cartwheel.
First.
Or a variation of a cartwheel.
And then simply cartwheel over from the 90 hand onto the invert.
Yeah, here it looks still like a cartwheel mixed with a air freeze on both sides. But if you want to make it look more advanced, you really need to improve the shoulder flexibility.
Which is basically the hand we're supposed to land on when performing your Airflare. So if you don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to 90 hand and invert 90 hand, then you definitely have to check out my power kick tutorial.
Link in the description down below.
Now watch the overall form of this pike cartwheel, especially the legs. The form you adapt to right here is the form you would take with you as luggage into your Airflare. So legs stretched, open, and hips bent forwards at all times. So once you start to get a little comfortable with this, you want to do exactly the same kind of cartwheel, but then tuck your head in a little more. By tucking that head in, we're placing the floor more behind us and creating even more of that Airflare angle.
Exactly, this is also good advice. If you want to learn the walkover Airflare, you really need to focus on tucking the chin in. In a normal Airflare, you don't need to think about this so much. Actually, it comes naturally because you're already pretty wide and pretty open with the shoulders. But in this one, you need to create the openness, I don't know how to say, of the shoulders by forcing it a little bit. So first you start straight. If you look at the floor, it will not look like an Airflare at all. You need to create this kind of depth, this kind of stretch here. And to do it, you need to do two things. One is tucking the chin in and to look at the ceiling. And second, you need to try to push your shoulder backwards. I don't know if he mentions that, but you need to try to do that. Maybe for some people, they don't need to try because they already have very flexible shoulders and it will come naturally. But if you don't have flexible shoulders naturally, you need to try to push strong backwards with your shoulders, and you need to additionally practice a lot of hollow backs, a lot of inverts, and a lot of bridges.
Most struggle with a good form at this stage, so film yourself and triple check everything, and take your time while executing this. There's no rush. The more relaxed you are, the more time you have to focus on that perfect form, ending up in faster results.
Pretty good.
Practice fast, learn slow. Practice slow, learn fast. So when this starts to work, we're actually ready to start working on walkover Airflares, especially if you have a good form. So let's add the rotation of the Airflare with a little help of the power kick. Now starting the power kick with our invert 90 hand on the floor first. We slowly transition onto the second hand, which is your 90 hand, and then implement the pike cartwheel from the second hand to the third hand, as we've just done in the previous exercise. Now the goal here is positioning ourselves on that landing hand or catch hand as stable as possible, with the maximum amount of hang time and that perfect form. You need to become one with this angle and position. So after a few weeks, or preferably even a few months of working and adapting to this walkover Airflare, you should start to feel pretty good in this landing position, which is what this walkover technique and method is all for. So only when you're very, very comfortable at this point are you ready to actually start hopping from one hand to the other. Now don't start throwing yourself to the side as you used to do before. What we want to do is now add a hop from that second hand and then land it on that third hand, but we want to execute.
Slinky, is this good method to use for the low angle as well, or would this kind of confuse you? What do you mean exactly? Can you be a little bit more specific? You mean starting directly from one arm, so without the power move kick, the power move start, you say? So going directly, let's say if I spin clockwise, going directly from the right hand and jumping to the left hand, you mean like this, or you mean, what do you mean exactly?
This hop within the walkover Airflare. So the angle, the position, and the form stays exactly the same as during the walkover Airflare. But now we're slightly going to bring those legs in while standing on our second hand to create the pump we need to actually...
Okay, this part is pretty hard if you're not flexible. Long time ago, I tried this as a pretty bad flexible people in the shoulder flexion. And I really couldn't pike my legs in this position, so vertical, and at the same time opening the shoulders. It's pretty hard. And yeah, as I mentioned before, you need to do a lot of flexibility work if you don't have it. It looks so weird if you are not flexible enough.
Hop onto that third hand, preferably landing with the legs open and stretched, hips forwards in a pike position. And that's why those one hand hops will come in handy. So you feel at ease hopping from that second hand, but also feeling at ease landing on that third hand. Now there are many different exercises, forms, and techniques that you can apply on this stage. So if you're looking for more exercises to help you out at this point, I can definitely recommend you guys my Airflare Masterclass that you can find on my website. This is a 1-hour video with more than 100 different Airflare exercises. It all starts with with the basics, and it builds all the way up to crazy variations like one-handed elbow air flare or munch air flare and all these kind of things. It's all in there. You're absolutely gonna love it. The video is about 50 bucks and it helped hundreds of people around the globe already, and I'm not including my own students. So if you're taking this seriously, feel free to help yourself. The link is in the description down below. So when first applying the hop or the jump, you really want to focus on that clean landing on that catch hand. If you land all twisted and screwed up, that means that you're not used to the landing position yet, or you haven't adapted to these forms and angles yet. So then you simply have to return back to the walkover air flare until you really know what you're doing. Don't try and rush this, guys. Take your time. But if you do feel at ease, you want to try and catch this in a handstand, or even maybe combining it with a 90 or a 2000. Keeping in mind that you always want to keep that high angle. If that kind of works out, then I definitely recommend you to combine this high air flare to a windmill, which is what...
Yeah, this is good because it makes you lower your body angle and kick your legs low to go to the windmill. If you're getting too used to connect air flare in this way to a higher move like a 90 or a reverse 90, maybe you could have a little bit harder time to be able to swing the legs low again, just at the beginning, but maybe after that it should also be easy. But if you immediately learn how to connect it to a windmill, you can kind of fix the form almost immediately.
One of the best things you want to do, if you've learned your air flare in a high angle and you want to start opening the air flare up and lowering down that angle.
Oh,
and
yeah.
some good advice right
That's
here
good.
is you want to be doing this a lot. You want to be hitting a lot of air flare to windmills during your practice sessions, because that's really going to open up the air flare.
Yeah,
Basically
this is good advice. This is really making the air flare getting lower.
make you feel like you're flying. And the more you do it...
But it's not the only thing. It's not like only by practicing the walkover air flare or this very high air flare and then going to windmill gonna automatically make the one air flare lower. It's gonna help, of course, especially in the second round, to make lower the second round. But for the first round, you need to also intentionally try to make it lower by swinging one leg lower and by widening the range of movement with the throwing arm. That in my case, it will be the left if you are spinning clockwise. I don't know if he talks about that. Let's see.
The faster it will evolve. Now, when working on multiple...
Yes, exactly. Sorry, that's what I mean. Yeah, so practicing this exercise, just the throw, is very useful also for normal air flare, but you need to change a little bit the exercise. You shouldn't practice like a cartwheel anymore because it's not going to be useful if your air flare is lower. You need to practice it in a lower way. So basically you need to go in a hand-up position or maybe in a pike position if you can, and then completely jump widely. And then actually I made it, if you search my Airflare follow along video, I explained this part in detail. Maybe later on in the live stream I'm gonna show it also. It's a little bit hard to explain without showing you, so I need to show the video in order for you to really understand what I mean.
air flares,
Here, see how this looks like spinning handstand, bro? Handstand hop, sorry. No, bro. Diego will take like 5 or 6 airflare to even reach his original position. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, because let me see his form again.
During your practice sessions, because that's really going to open up the air flare. Basically, make you feel like you're flying. And the more you do it, the faster it will evolve. Now, when working on multiple air flares...
Yeah, because he's staying always high with his hips and with his legs, and also he's not swinging his arm. So the arm is pretty vertical and the hips are so high. So you can have a vertical form actually, but slowly you need to, let's say this is the hips. The hips usually in a vertical form twists like this, you know, almost vertical or even vertical like this. You need to try to make your hips move like this, you know, and then kick one leg down more. If you don't do this, then the air flare is not gonna magically become like a real air flare. You need to intentionally make your hips twisting more and make your at least one of the leg kick down more. And then at the same time, you need to open up the arm. Otherwise, the air flare is gonna stay vertical. What about using the air freeze position? Yeah, you need to use the air freeze position actually. Yeah, I see, yeah. I see comment.
You really want to focus on that high
Yeah, it takes so many rounds to do one full circle. Usually if you do a normal air flare, it should take only 2 or maybe 3 rounds to do one full circle. For me, personally, it takes 2. So when I do 2 air flares, I come again to the same spot. So I do one and my hands are here. When I do the second round, my hands are completely the opposite direction. And when I do one more, my hands are gonna stay here again. So it makes 2 rounds to complete 1 circle.
A second Airflare, and the same for the third Airflare, and the fourth Airflare. And that brings me to this quote I love to use with Airflare.
3 is 1.
Because every single Airflare you're hitting should be at the exact same angle as the first one. Now a lot of different things occur at this stage. Twisted hands, Airflares in a straight line, crippled legs, not to mention some ugly ass looking Airflares. But it's all normal, guys. Also adding the fact that it will feel like some kind of hopping handstand move at first. But these things will evolve over time.
Yeah, doing multiple Airflares like 3 or 4 to complete 1 full circle is still okay actually. Also like how Sambo teaches, if you want to learn in this method, is good actually. You can start by making multiple Airflares to create 1 full circle. The only issue is about the intention. You should have if you want to make like a proper Airflare, you should have the intention of changing your form and lowering your leg and opening up the arms more in order to fix it and then make it wider and make it become like 3 rounds for 1 circle or maybe even 2 rounds for 1 circle.
If you don't give up and keep working
But
progressively.
at the beginning, yeah, anyone can do however he likes. It depends on himself. Then it's just a matter of fixing it.
With the right state of mind. Now Airflare does take time, guys, and patience is the key. Nobody learns Airflare in like a week. Nobody, especially me. Only after a few months are you actually going to see and feel.
Yeah, when the form is too vertical, sometimes it's hard to get low. But that's why you need to do immediately. You need to learn it immediately. If you're waiting too long before learning Airflare to windmill, then you're gonna have a hard time learning how to kick down, because your legs are gonna stay too vertical high. Maybe an exercise that can be useful is just doing the handstand to windmill, just starting from a handstand and from a handstand doing the windmill. So in this case, you can kind of like cut the movement in multiple parts. So you can do Airflare to handstand and then handstand to windmill. And then when you get familiar with this, you can get smoother and do Airflare, handstand, windmill, and then Airflare, windmill.
Real progress. I could also recommend you guys to join my online Airflare classes that I'm doing once a month. This way.
Kamin is the girl, right? Yeah, for girls sometimes it's a little bit harder because girls naturally, biologically, have a little bit heavier hips than guys. And when your hips are heavier, it's a little bit hard to lower your hips in the moves. That's why the girls sometimes have hard times doing the flare. And usually the girls who have a good flare are girls who have a little bit skinny hips, you know. The larger the hips, the harder is to make it lower and do lower movements like lower Airflares or flares,
You can
or
follow
even
my
swipes.
exercises and get professional feedback on your Airflare. Again, you can find access to these classes in my website,
of which the link is displayed in the description down below.
Also in the description down below, you can find tons of other Airflare related videos, like the Airflare evolution of my students, or that one time we tried to work on double Airflare, or maybe you want to check out the video where I hit Airflares in 40 different countries over the globe. All quality videos to inspire you and help you out get to that
40
next
country? 40? Oh my god, he traveled so much more than me.
level, right here on Coach Sambo's YouTube channel. So guys, don't forget, if we can learn Airflare, you can do it too. But it's
Is it
important
done?
you
Oh.
never give up. So don't forget to smash that like button.
Oh, it's done. Okay, if you want to learn like vertical Airflare, this is pretty good tutorial, but I think it still misses few parts. So it doesn't explain how to kick the leg down properly, but I think he explained this maybe in some new tutorial, because this tutorial is pretty old, I think. Wait, let me check again. This tutorial is from 5 years ago. I think he made some new tutorials that are a little better, if I'm not wrong. But he also doesn't explain how to open up the Airflare. So he explained how to learn it in this way, vertically, but then he doesn't explain how to transform this type of Airflare to a normal Airflare, actually. So now I'm gonna switch completely. No, sorry guys. I want to show you another vertical Airflare tutorial. This one, in my opinion, is the best vertical Airflare tutorial that I ever seen on YouTube. This is from, Seita. The name of the guy is Seita, B-Boy Seita from, I guess, Japan, because he wrote in Japanese here. And he explained the airflare in a vertical way, but what I really like about his tutorial that he also explained how to transform the vertical airflare into a lower airflare. So as you can see, when he does airflare, it doesn't look like he learned it from a vertical airflare. It looks like a normal airflare, you see? Pretty clean and pretty low, I would say. Not too low, but still lower than when people learn it from a vertical angle. You mean like from Zeta? Not this tutorial exactly. In my opinion, this tutorial of B-Boy Zeta is the best for high airflares. In general, like for airflares in general, the best tutorial, I don't know. I need to see more. But if we are talking about how to learn it from a vertical angle and then to lower it, this one is the best tutorial in my opinion. Also here from a handstand, of course, if you want to learn the vertical airflare, you need the handstand. Good hand ups on both sides. Okay, he shows many hand ups. In my opinion, you don't need many hand ups. Only 2 or 3 hand ups are enough if you do them with good form. Bro, he has few more in his, even better than this one. Really? I saw multiple tutorials in his channel, but to me this one was the best. But maybe I'm gonna check more. I'm gonna give it another shot. This is what I call the air freeze. Pretty good. Yeah, this is the shape itself is not wrong. It's kind of like an L kick, but it's wrong if you apply to the airflare, because in the airflare, as I said before, the legs are not swinging actually. If you want to learn it like Hironaga does, then of course you can swing, but usually the legs are never swinging like this in an airflare. Maybe only at the start when you do the power move start. And then when you do the first round of airflare, they can swing a little bit, but then after the first round, they're not swinging anymore. Okay, here is a little bit weird for me. This is maybe the only thing that I don't like about this tutorial, that he say that pike are wrong. Maybe I think years ago I even commented on this video by typing that in my opinion pikes are not wrong. Even if you do vertical airflare, the pike can still be useful actually. Maybe for him, pike didn't work, but in general, pike, they always work in general. Not always, but in 80% of cases, you know. This drill is also pretty useful to get more control on the hand up. And this one, hand up to pike, in my opinion, is very useful actually. He say like it's wrong, but in my opinion, this is very useful. Hey Kaio, super random, out of nowhere question, since we are talking about power moves. What power moves do you think Shigekix is good at? Big fan of him. Shigekix is pretty good in most of power moves he does. Chair flare, Hellos maybe is the best power move that he has in my opinion, but also his air flare is pretty good. Maybe some people don't like his flare because he bend a lot one of the leg in the flare. I think he bend a lot the right leg. When he's almost finishing the round, he bend a lot the right leg. But I suppose he can also do flare with a good form. Maybe he does it intentionally just to add to his own style. I'm pretty sure he can also do flares with straight legs. So yeah, I think I like any move of Shigekix actually. I like his style also, his tricks and his power moves, everything. Swinging is for B-Boy Chico. Yeah, Chico is also swinging the legs. In his case, it's pretty powerful, you know, but it's a little bit an exception. It's not the rule. Even if for him it worked very, very well, for most of people it wouldn't work so well like for him. That's why you don't see so many B-Boys spinning kind of like Chico, you know. 2 hops. Oh, the hops with wide legs are also very good for the control. They are, in my opinion, a little bit overkill. Like, you don't really need it for Airflare, but if you can do them, they're gonna help a lot for Airflares. Help a lot to control the legs and to control the hips in the Airflare. Machine. Pretty funny name, Machine. Okay, here is teaching this machine, let's call it a power move start, with no momentum at first. It's a good way to start with no momentum, and then to add momentum later on. It's good to make you have control of what you're doing. I like this method. This is good. This drill is good, doing the power move start, but not leaning the second hand on the floor, just staying on the first hand. This makes you understand how to use more momentum on the first hand. Yes, and also waiting on the second hand is very good to help you control what you're doing. Also, this drill is very good to make you understand. I like these drills that he's doing because these drills are a lot about weight shifting. For example, in Hero Naga tutorials, all the drills are mainly about scissoring the legs and handstand drills. In my opinion, these kind of handstand drills are not that useful for the Airflare. Maybe it can be useful only for the handstand control in general. But for Airflares, you need to learn how to move the weight from one arm to the other, not just to stay in the handstand and do nothing, just move the legs in the handstand. No, it's more like moving in the handstand and moving from one side to the other. So I like this type of drill when you need to spin on one hand and staying on one hand, and then switching the weight on the other hand and then staying on this other hand. I like these drills way more. Shigekick is pretty good at stuff like windmills, head spin, halos, 90 flares, airflare, flare, and airflare. Even wonder why he doesn't use Airflare much. Yeah, I don't know why. His Airflare is pretty good, actually. Maybe he doesn't have many Airflare variations, so he doesn't know how to use it exactly. I don't know, for example, why he doesn't use windmill to Airflare, for example, because I'm pretty sure he can do windmill to Airflare. Because in his power move combos is sometimes pretty repetitive. He always do the same power move combo, for example, this halo to chair flare on the elbow and then this head spin like this, and some other combos. The airflare with cross legs to munch meal, something like this. But sometimes I think he could play a little more with variations and with the moves that he can do. I don't know why he doesn't do it. I wanna ask him. I don't know. Do you prefer Demon or Punisher? Have you seen the Dietrich's Airflare tutorial? I've seen the Dietrich's Airflare tutorial, but I don't remember. I've seen so many years ago. Maybe I can react to it. If I prefer Demon or Punisher, I like both of them a lot. They are two of my favorite power movers, so it's very hard. I think in general Punisher is stronger, but Demon has some beautiful transitions. So in terms of beauty of power moves, maybe I would say Demon. Even though I like Punisher Airflare more, I like Demon Flare and some of the Demon combos better than Punisher. But I would say Punisher is overall stronger, so I don't know, both of them. If you mean about beauty of power moves, I would choose Demon. If you mean about general power move level, I would choose Punisher. But for me, they are kind of the same. I don't know. I like them both. Yeah, this is the first step, kind of the same like Sambo shows and teach. It's pretty much the same. It's interesting here that he's telling like to learn this step both with straight legs but also with bent legs. This is a very good advice in my opinion, because it makes you learn how to control the legs if you learn both ways, not only straight legs and not only bend legs, but learning both. This is very handy. Here he's still not jumping. Oh, this very little advice that he gives here is the reason why I like this tutorial so much. And I like it more, for example, than Sambo previous tutorial or than other vertical airflare tutorials, about swinging the arm. Because most of tutorials that explain the vertical airflare, and also most people that explain the vertical airflare, they keep bending the arm like this, you know? I really don't like the bent arm form. They can fix it very easily, actually. It's so easy to fix, so I don't know why they don't do it. And here it shows very clearly how to fix this problem. So basically, swing arm. As you can see, now this arm here is not gonna just go overhead like this, but it's gonna do kind of like almost a swimming movement. He's gonna go like this, you know? He's gonna go up with the arm and then down again. Of course, now I'm on the opposite direction, so it's down and then up. But for him, it's upside down, so he's gonna go up and then down. Look carefully. Here, as you can see, his hand is going up and then he's going down, he's gonna catch again. This arm movement is crucial if you wanna learn vertical airflare. It's so important. So I don't know why other people are not talking about this. And this can be the game changer of the form of the airflare. Here it shows again. Oh, as you can see, this is his hand. It's a little bit blurry, but even if it's blurry, I think you can see. His hand is down. I think almost imagine you want to touch with the throwing hand, you want to touch your foot. He's not really touching the foot, as you can see, but almost imagine you want to touch the foot, you want to reach the foot with the throwing arm. And then he's placing back this arm in the correct position and spinning a little bit. Here he does the same, first only with the bent arms, by adding a little jump. And oh, as you can see here, he's swinging the arm. Can you notice how much of a difference it does to the airflare? So even though the airflare is very, very vertical, by swinging this arm, it immediately looks like the form is more correct, you see? It looks almost like a normal airflare, even though his angle, as you can see, is very, very vertical. But it looks like almost like a regular airflare. And here again, it looks like he's doing a big jump. Actually, the jump is still very small. But by doing this swing of the arm, it makes the illusion or the effect that the jump is bigger. And here even more. He's just bounced the legs a little more here. And as you can see, it almost looks like a normal airflare. I'm gonna rewind. Yes, this is so good advice. So basically here he's still doing a vertical airflare, but it almost looks like a normal airflare just because of the arm swing. So I'm gonna pause. Maybe I can put it in slow motion just for very... I would just put it in slow motion just for this part because I think it's very interesting. As you can see, his hips level is almost completely vertical. His legs are very good in posture because they are completely like in a squat position. So the posture is very, very good. And this arm, as you can see, is swinging up. So if this arm would stay here in this direction, it will look like a weird or like a walkover airflare. But just because of his lifting up this arm, it completely changes the form of the airflare, you see? Of course, it's also because of the hips and the legs posture. They make a huge role also because they are pretty good. But as you can see here, it really looks like an airflare, even though it's so vertical. Almost completely vertical. So I think all the tutorials that want to explain the walkover or the vertical airflare should include this step about the arm. The problem is that most people, they don't even think about this step and they don't even learn this step. So they keep doing this kind of like mistake about the arm. Keep throwing the arm like this. In my opinion, you should not throw the arm like this or like this, you know. It's not this movement, but it's this movement here. And then if you're too high, you're gonna readjust the arm here. So if you're gonna throw lower, like I do, for example, you're gonna just throw like this. If you're gonna throw higher, you're gonna do this and then this. It's a little bit like a weird movement. It really feels like swimming, like doing a swimming movement. This Zeta vertical airflare is the best out of all of them. Yeah, I agree. That's why I like these tutorials so much, because he's not only performing the vertical airflare very well, but he's also giving the right advices to perform it in a very proper way. Wrong way to drill it. Okay, in my opinion, this is not wrong actually. This is just another technique. Actually, this is the technique I learned the airflare. But from here, I didn't stop, I just kept going into a flare. Even though I fall in this position, from this position here, I will still go to a flare. It's not wrong, it's just another technique. This, I don't know why he say it's wrong. All these techniques that he's showing are not wrong actually, it's just other techniques, you know. Yeah, this maybe is a little weird. His body is rotating 3 or 4 airflare, he will be back to original spot. It depends which form he's using. For example, here at the end, we can count actually. Let's count together. So here, his hands are in this direction. You need 1, 2, yeah, almost 2 rounds to get to the original spot. 1, a little more than 2. Here he's doing it more vertical, so he needs more rounds. So how many rounds here? Wait, let me count again. Here is like almost 2, a little more than 2. Here is 2, yeah, 2.5, I would say. Maybe 3, let's say 3. 1. Yeah, usually he uses like 2 and something, between 2 and 3 rounds to get to the original spot. He actually never go to the original spot exactly. He goes a little bit off. Okay. Oh, I want to react to my tutorial. This is not a tutorial actually that I made. It's an exercise video for the airflare. Wait, let me rewind. Also, we can see also my form compared to the other form. Let's see how many airflares do I need to do one full circle. So now I'm facing this direction, the opposite direction of the camera. 1, yeah, I need exactly 2, as you can see. Maybe sometimes a little more, but usually, even here, I need 2 rounds to complete one circle. 1, 2, and I complete one circle. 1, 2, I complete another circle. Here a little more. 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, let's see the leg shape. So as you can see, for me, I'm swinging a little more. And this leg here is bouncing, but so little, because this is the way I learn. Of course, I can also bounce the leg, but if I do the airflare in the most natural way possible for me, swinging is more effective. But the way I explain the airflare is still by bouncing. As you can see here, maybe you can see from this position, my leg is still not scissoring. Even though I swing with my legs, with both of my legs together. It's not like I do this movement, okay? I don't do this. I swing, but I still swing at the same time. So it doesn't look wrong, you know, when I swing. This leg, you see, is still not like scissoring. Here I'm using a little bit a different shape, more like a little bit like a squat position by bending the legs. Here I do like this just because I like this form actually. What is your impression of B-Boy Blonde walking forward and back? Oh, this airflare is so dope. Yeah, it's so hard. I never tried to do it. I don't know really how hard it is because I never tried, but it looks so dope. So here I do the exercises. handstand. I start from the handstand and handstand variations. So when I did this Airflare tutorial, I meant to be as general as possible, to implement all the exercises needed for any Airflare type: vertical Airflare, low Airflare, diagonal Airflare, any different Airflare. So that's why I started from the handstand. Here I show the hops in the handstand, and as you can see, I don't do the scissor hops, but I push with both legs at the same time, because I think it's more useful for Airflares rather than scissoring. Oh, I also added elbow freeze. Almost nobody had elbow freezes. For me, elbow freeze are even better than handstand actually for Airflare, because the body is not completely straight, but is slightly inclined on one side, and it makes you understand how to switch the angle of the body a little bit more than a regular handstand. It's a little bit like a mix between practicing the handstand and practicing the air freeze. So practicing the elbow freezes on both sides, yeah, it's kind of like practicing two things at once. It's practicing the air freeze and practicing the handstand at the same time. Air freeze on the other side. Just air freeze with another leg shape a little bit. Hand up position without hopping. This is kind of like half pike. Pike on the other side. Hand ups, only 3 hops. Same here, only 3 hops, because I don't think more than 3 are needed. Hand ups with a little bit wider leg shape, so not like this, but a little bit like this. Wide leg hand ups, I also think. Actually, here, as I mentioned before, you don't need to learn all these exercises to really learn the Airflare. Even for me, when I learned the Airflare, I couldn't do all these exercises that I'm doing in this tutorial. But if you can do all these exercises, it's pretty much almost guaranteed that you will unlock the Airflare. So Airflare will just become a matter of consistency in this case, if you can do all these exercises. High-end. Oh, this is something that a lot of tutorials underrate. In my opinion, this is very underrated. Almost nobody teaches you about, shows you about the high end-ups. In my opinion, it's very useful for the Airflare, because when we push to do a jump in a Airflare, we need to push pretty hard compared to a normal hand-up. So a normal hand-up, the push is a little bit weak. It's not strong, you know, you just push very slightly. But in an Airflare, the jump is much higher, so you need to jump from one arm very wide to the other arm if you want to make the Airflare wide and proper with a 45 degrees angle. So in this case, you need to know how to jump pretty strong from one arm to the other. So that's why I recommend the high end-up, both in the throwing arm to learn how to push away from the floor, but also on the landing arm to learn how to land from a high jump. So high end-up is pretty useful for me. And here you don't need more than one, you just need one high hand-up. This exercise is also extremely useful in my opinion, especially if you want to practice the Airflare by using a lot of pike. Going from the pike to a air freeze position or to a higher position, even a handstand position would be fine. So as you can see here in the pike, my hips are here. When I jump, so I will put here this arrow where my hips are now. And as you can see here, they became higher. So from here, they move here. This is very useful to learn how to push up your hips in the Airflare. So this, in my opinion, also very underrated exercise. Almost nobody mentioned about this exercise, but it's so useful to learn how to push your hips higher than they are. So pushing from the pike position or hand-up position to a higher position. So here, low, high. And here the same, low, high. Very useful. This is just for the overall control, so just to be able to switch from one arm to the other. And here the same, just to get a little bit more familiar with the movement. It's just for the arms. This exercise is just for the arms, not really for the legs. This can be a little bit more useful even for the legs, because it teaches you how to pike a little bit, at least with one leg, how to pike with one leg to touch the foot with the hand. This is for overall control. And also this doing one hand up on each side alternatively, it makes you learn how to lean, how to really lean on one arm and weight on one arm. Because in order to be able to do one hand up and then catch and then transfer the weight and then do one hand up again, it means that if you can do this, you can also lean enough to do an air flare, you know. You have enough lean in this exercise to do the air flare correctly. This is like a similar exercise that Sambo showed in his tutorial, like kind of like a cartwheel with a small hop. Here I'm doing pretty much the same, but adding a little bit of a circle. I don't know if you can notice, I'm not going in a completely straight line anymore, but I'm going a little bit in a curve. Why I'm doing this curve? To try to emulate the air flare rotation, you know, because many people when they do vertical air flare, they go in a straight line, but they should try to get in a circle more. So this exercise is to understand how to create a circle with your body when you throw. Yeah, as you can see here, I'm creating a little bit of a circle when I do this kind of cartwheel. So the first part of this exercise video was more about the static exercises that improve the control of your air flare. This second part is more the exercises that help for the momentum and for the leaning. So this is the power move start, of course, is the first one, but this should be already mastered, as I said in the Pygmy tutorial. So maybe if I would redo this video again, I would not even include this exercise anymore, because it's too obvious in my opinion. So this here is actually swinging the legs. I don't know if I would make this tutorial now, maybe I would not put it anymore. It can be useful only if you know that you're swinging the legs and that you only use it to learn how to swing one leg at a time, you know? For example, wait a second. So from here, if I don't know how to swing the leg down properly and how to kick with my right leg, for example, this exercise and touching my foot will help me understand, oh, okay, with this leg I need to do a circle and then I need to touch it in order to kind of understand where my foot, where my leg is. But I wouldn't overdo it, because if you overdo this exercise, it makes you understand like a wrong movement pattern with these legs. So yeah, maybe I would remove it. If I would make this air flare exercise video again, I would remove this one exercise, I think. Useful only if done with intention, otherwise it can mess up your form. Check Hironaga tutorial. I already checked Hironaga tutorial at the beginning of the live stream. If you are joining now, maybe I will leave this live stream online on YouTube, so after it's done, you can rewatch the beginning and you can check the tutorials that you missed. So I already reacted to Hironaga, to Pygmy, to Coach Sambo, and to Seita tutorials. Now I'm gonna react to my own tutorial, and then I'm gonna react to a few more. This is a little bit more useful in my opinion, because it touches the opposite leg. In this case, this is the leg that is gonna supposed to pike. So touching this leg is more useful for the air flare to learn how to bounce the leg. Instead, touching the swinging leg can mess up your form, because the swinging leg is not really meant to pike too much, or maybe yes, only if you are very flexible, kind of like Martial, for example. But if your flexibility is kind of normal or low, try to touch your swinging leg can mess up your form a little bit. So I would remove the previous exercise, but I will keep this one. This is useful to learn how to pop a little bit with your legs. And this is also very useful to learn how to generate momentum on the starting arm. And this is also very useful to learn how to wait on the second arm. And here I'm mixing the exercise. So This exercise is very, very useful in my opinion, because it makes you understand how to use both arms correctly and how to lean on both arms correctly. Spinning handstand only for high air flares or walkovers. As you can see, my spinning handstand form is not the best. Sometimes I'm a little bit using a banana shape with my legs. My legs are not completely low. This other exercise is also useful for the walkover, just to improve your control. Not necessary, but useful. Okay, here I start showing like the walkover, how to start a walkover. Here I'm going in a straight line. Touching your feet in this way can help to understand how to bounce your legs correctly even in a walkover. So this is pretty good. And also touching your feet in this way is pretty good to make you understand how to lift up this hand off the floor, kind of like Seita did in his tutorial, and to learn how to do a jump with this hand. Here I'm not jumping, so I'm not showing the jump like Seita did, but touching this foot is pretty useful, both to learn how to bounce this foot and also how to swing this arm. And touching this foot also is useful to kind of like arrive in a correct posture on the landing arm. Okay, as you can see, my walkover air flare form here is not the best. You can clearly see that I didn't learn Airflare in this form, so I really need to force myself to do it in this way. It's not very natural for me. This exercise is useful, as I said before, just at the beginning. Oh, wait a second, who was the b-boy who asked me before? Let me go back in the comments. So someone asked me before in the chat if this exercise of Sambo that he did, like kind of like a cartwheel, is useful for the regular air flares, and I said yes, but you should change it, you should modify it. This is what I mean. Not this exercise here, but this one here. So basically you're starting from the throwing hand, you're lifting up, and then you're jumping and you're leaning on your feet. This is the first way to learn how to throw if you want to learn airflare in a lower angle, you know. So for example, Sambo in his tutorial say like you're throwing yourself in the dark, like you don't know what you're doing. This is the way, this is my method on how to not throw yourself in the dark. So this is specific progression you should use to learn how to throw yourself. So the first progression is jumping and leaning like I did now with both feet on the floor, but with straight arm. This is very important, with straight arm. And hips low, it's okay, because this is only the first step. Second step is the same. As you can see, my arm is straight, the landing is straight, and both feet are still up, but my hips is slightly higher. So before my hips were kind of like here, almost like in a footwork position. Here, my hips is a little higher. So this is the second progression. Here is even a little higher. You see, my hips is getting higher. And here I do the same, but one foot is up in the air. So basically I'm showing how to not throw yourself randomly if your airflare is very wide. You can still progress very clearly, very specifically. Even if your airflare is very low or very wide, you can make very specific progression on how to learn it, you know. Here I'm showing the same. Here I'm showing the same, but as you can see, I'm arriving with my hips a little bit twist. So not with my hips facing up anymore, but with my hips a little bit more turned. And here the same. And here the same, but I'm a little bit higher. So basically, as you can see, I'm transforming very gradually the airflare shape and the airflare landing. Here I'm repeating the same steps, but starting from a pike position instead of starting from a macaco. So as you can see, first step, just fall, arms straight and both feet on the floor. Second step here, one foot is up in the air. Again, one foot up in the air, but a little bit twist. And here I'm getting higher gradually, and even higher. And here I'm doing the same, but with knees bent. Here I can touch my foot if I want. So I want to show this progression again, all of it. Because this is so important, and almost nobody uses this progression actually. But this progression is so useful. Here already review Hironaga. Yeah, I already review Hironaga. I want to show you this progression again because many people don't use it and many people don't know about this progression. And this progression is very gradual and very clear on how to learn the wider airflare or the lower airflare in a very measurable way. Like not just like Sambo said, like throwing yourself in the dark. Most people, actually it's real, they throw themselves in the dark. But you can avoid that. You just need to have some measurements. By measurements, you need to have some specific positions that you're gonna land. So you should exactly know how you're gonna fall in your airflare, not just throw an airflare and fall randomly. If you're gonna practice like that, your progress will be so slow. You need to be very specific in the way you fall in the airflare. So here, basically I'm falling on purpose on this position here. With one arm straight, both feet on the floor, hips pretty low. Just watch, and you will clearly see the progression. So as you can see, the difference is very gradual and very slight. I'm not changing the landing from one step to the other, but I'm gradually getting higher and higher and higher, and then I'm trying to get my hips higher very gradually until my hips is so high that I don't need to touch the floor anymore with my feet. Here the hips is even higher, but I'm also twisting more, and I'm also leaning the third hand actually, on the floor again. Here I'm doing the same step, but with another start. So the concept is the same, just the start is different. Actually, you can apply the same steps also from a regular power move start. So you can do 1, 2, then throw yourself, and then apply these specific steps. Here from the handstand, and as you can see, I'm doing the same steps but starting from a handstand. Okay, here I skipped some steps, but basically you can repeat the same steps that I did before from a handstand if you want, or from whatever start you want, even from an elbow track. So for example, if you are learning like a airflare to elbow track, or if you are learning flare to airflare, no, sorry, what did I say? If you're learning airflare from another move, for example, let's say windmill to airflare, you can apply the same steps that I did before from a windmill. So you can do windmill, lift yourself up, throw, and land on both feet. This is the first step. Then you can try to get higher with your hips. In this way, you can really measure how close you are to do an actual airflare from another start or from another move. This one pike to pike is so hard because I throw my arm over my chest, but my hips drop immediately to catch my fall. Yeah, it makes sense. As I just said, you need to do it very gradually. So don't try to immediately aim for pike to pike, but try to aim first for pike to pike, but maybe you can lean one foot on the floor at first. Try to be patient, go one step back, try to aim for a very specific landing position that is pretty achievable for you, and then from this starting point, you try to evolve more and more. So don't try to do something you still feel not ready to do, but try to make one step back first. Try to do an easy variation that for you is possible immediately to do, and then try to evolve it from here. You will use this variation as a starting point, and then you're gonna scale up. Okay, this is already pretty advanced actually. This exercise is pretty useless if you can already do swipes. So this exercise I would only recommend to people who cannot do swipes. otherwise you are only gonna waste your time. This one instead is a little bit more useful because you need to switch the leg, and you need, in this one you need to pike a little bit, so this one is useful in my opinion. Here, same, it's pretty useful because you need to learn how to pike. Of course, if you have limited mobility, you need to stretch a lot, and you need to work on pikes a lot. This is also very useful, kind of like a swipe, but you need to use the pike first. Pike and jump in this one, and leaning on one leg. This is also pretty useful. Same with more pike actually. This exercise, the quality of this exercise will depend a lot on the quality of your pike. The better is your pike, the better this exercise will be. So I really recommend you to work a lot on your pikes to improve this exercise and to improve the Airflare in general. Here I'm doing the same, but I'm trying to catch with the opposite leg. So instead of leaning, landing with this foot on the floor with the left, in my case, I'm gonna kind of like turn. I'm gonna catch with my right foot and lean with the right. This will make you understand how to use a little bit more momentum and how to kick the right leg a little bit in a circle. And here I'm doing the same, but just kicking higher. Okay, this is just extra for low hips Airflare. Pretty hard to do. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, by seeing this video again, I would say pretty good video. Maybe if I should do this video again now, I will cut out few exercises because maybe I show too many exercises. Some of them are not needed. So maybe people will feel too overwhelmed by seeing it. It's still good actually. I will just cut out maybe 2 or 3 exercises and then that's it. I will leave all the other ones. Did I forget to show some exercises? Maybe yes, I forgot to show the one that Seita did, this kind of arm swing. I show it a little bit by tapping my foot, so this is kind of similar, but I think I needed to focus a little more on this one exercise, so I only missed this one exercise, I think, in this video. Thank you. This random question, but given how long you've been practicing, have you ever sustained a serious injury? I imagine you have a good recovery rate. Serious injury, not really, but one time by doing street shows, I did munch Airflare or baby Airflare, and I didn't warm up properly, and when I throw from one arm to the other, I feel my muscle around here, the shoulder, a little bit pulled. And after this, instead of resting, I kept doing street shows for the next days because we were kind of like on holiday for 2 weeks, and in these 2 weeks we wanted to do street shows every day. Actually, the smartest thing to do at this time maybe was to stop and to recover, but I wanted to earn money, so I kept doing street shows and I kept doing even Airflare, even though I felt weird on my shoulder. And then after stopping the street shows, I even kept training. Maybe, I don't remember exactly how did I train, but I remember I kept training over the pain, you know? And this was a very big mistake. And this kind of pain lasted for at least 2 years, maybe even longer than 2 years. But I think if I was smarter and a little wiser, this pain could go away within 1 week or 2 weeks. But the fact that I kept training over it and kept training over it made this pull of my muscle maybe go deeper, I don't know. And then I needed to stop for some time. I don't remember how long I stopped. Not too long actually, maybe around 3 weeks or 1 month of fully stop, not doing anything, only doing other movements that are not related with the shoulder. Maybe if I do squats or if I go running, it's okay. But if I do anything related with the shoulder, I wouldn't do it. And then in these 3 weeks or 1 month, I almost fully recovered. And then I kept practicing again. I still didn't feel fully 100% recovered, but then gradually I went better and better actually. And sorry, this was the most serious injury that I got. Let me think if I had more. I don't think so. Sometimes I had some wrist, a little bit pain, but then it got better, so nothing too serious. A lot of very minor injuries, but major injuries, I would say no. I try to be very careful actually. Only this time I think I wasn't careful, but usually I try to be careful. Oh, thank you, full of cool. Bro, hablas español? No, I cannot speak Spanish. I can speak Italian. I'm from Italy. Maybe I can understand a little bit Spanish because Italian is pretty similar, but I cannot speak Spanish. I will move on. React to Simon Atta, aka Simonster. Simonster Strength Airflare tutorial. Usually I like how this guy explain the moves, but I don't remember so clearly this Airflare tutorial, so I don't know what to expect anymore.
In this video, I'll be teaching you how to Airflare. The Airflare is arguably the most difficult fundamental power move to master. Comparing the following videos, you can see different people Airflare with different techniques. There are variations to the way people throw, kick their legs, and the angle of their bodies. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to Airflare the way I learned, which should result in a similar...
Okay, this is so important, and I like so much the fact that he mentioned about that he said, I'm gonna teach the Airflare the way I learned. So he didn't say that he's gonna teach the Airflare in the best way or he's gonna teach the Airflare in the correct way. He just said, I'm gonna teach the Airflare in the way I learned. This is, for example, what Hironaga should say in his tutorial, or even other people, you know.
In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to Airflare the way I learned, which should result in a similar technique to mine. Before learning the progressions, it's helpful to have an understanding of the move. The Airflare can be conceptualized in a few ways. The analogy I find most useful is to think of the Airflare as a windmill, but elevated on the hands. Both moves rotate around 2 axes simultaneously, share similar body postures and leg swing technique, and rotate roughly 180 degrees with each repetition. The Airflare can also be conceptualized as a flare variation. This just involves more steps. Flares in their pure form stay facing one direction. To bridge the gap from flares to Airflares, you must first spindle the flares by adding a second axis of rotation. From spindle flares to Airflares, the hips must be elevated and the arm throws across the body rather than planning by the hip. Finally, the Airflare is sometimes described as a swipe without the legs touching the ground. This can be misleading as the swipe and Airflare have very different leg motions. There are, however, some similarities between these skills in which this idea becomes useful. Both use a similar arm swing with the arm throwing directly across the body, and both rotate around 2 axes simultaneously.
I really like how he mentioned that you can consider the Airflare in different ways, like as an evolution of the windmill, if you consider the legs, an evolution of the flare, and an evolution of the swipe. It's very true. Actually, you can learn Airflare from these basics. Even, for example, some b-boy who work a lot on their flare and have very, very, very good flares, they can try to transform their flare into an Airflare just by adjusting the flare and making it become an Airflare. So basically, the flare is always facing one direction, as Simon said. If you start making the flare turn 90 degrees in each round, you're already doing one first step to make the flare become an Airflare. Then second thing, you need to higher the flare as much as possible because the Airflare is much higher than the flare. And then third thing, you should add a jump. So basically, if you can do a flare so high that then when you are on the front part of the flare, instead of just leaning the hand on the floor, you're jumping, basically you're already doing an Airflare. So basically the Airflare can be a flare with a jump, if you think about it. Instead of switching hand on the front part of the flare, you're jumping from one end to the other. So for those who have very, very powerful, very, very high flares, they can really learn airflare just by evolving their flares, you know. It's pretty rare that something like this happens, because this means that their flare must be very, very dope, and it's so rare to find some people who got this high level of flare, but it's still possible. Same thing with the swipe. If your swipe start getting wider and wider, and you try to wait as long as possible on the swipe on each arm, you're gonna arrive to a point where you feel like you don't even need to touch the floor with the swipe anymore. You can just swing a little bit stronger, and then you can jump and directly lean the airflare, you know. For me, it took a very long time, but for me, it was almost this case, you know. My swipes was so good that I just needed to kick a little bit, and then I could directly do an airflare just by using the same swipe technique. For the windmill, is a little bit more complicated, because for the windmill, you're gonna lean your lower body, your upper body, sorry, your back, and even your shoulders and your head off the floor. So to transform the windmill to an airflare, you can still do it, but it's gonna take much more steps. So maybe first you need to learn a windmill by jumping from one shoulder to the other shoulder, so shoulder to shoulder windmill. This would be the first step. Then instead of using the shoulder, you're gonna place a little bit your elbows on the floor, so windmill jumping from here to here, and then you can try to push a little bit more up to the elbow, so it's gonna become a very low elbow track. So it's gonna become like a very low elbow track instead of a shoulder windmill, and then you can try to push more with the shoulders and with the arms like this, so it can become an elbow track. So basically from a windmill you can learn an elbow track, but this takes a lot of steps, you know. So I think it's gonna be easier to just practice the elbow track itself instead of training this method of the windmill. Or you can train both things at the same time. So for example, if you have a very strong windmill, you can try to transform your windmill into an elbow track, and at the same time you can try the elbow track separately, so you can adjust both ways. I had 3 good airflares in my opinion. This Russian b-boy said my form wasn't correct and told me to try in his way, which he had like crazy flexible shoulders, and this form made me tear my bicep. Oh my god. Yeah, we need to be careful, because sometimes people teach the moves the way they learn the moves, but they don't understand that the way they learn is not necessarily fitting to all the other people's. That's why, for example, I don't teach the airflare the way I learned the airflare, because it can result to injuries for some people, or it can result to plateau to many people, you know. So when I teach the airflare generally in my tutorials, I need to try to teach in the most common way that anybody can learn. But then, for example, if I do private coaching, I need to teach based on the foundation of the student. So I need to teach case by case, in a case by case scenario, you know. I cannot, for example, if someone asks me how to do an airflare and I don't see how he does an airflare, it's very hard to teach the airflare. But if he shows me, and if he shows me his basic, how is his flare, he shows me his wipes, he show me his windmill, he show me his flexibility on his shoulders, on his pec, on his legs, then I can have a better understanding. Oh, this guy is flexible like this guy can do flares like this, so probably the best way to learn airflare would be like this, you know. It's not like it's always the same for everyone. Sea Monster's crazy, man. yes, he's
Windmills,
crazy.
flares, and swipes are all easier power moves that will teach you skills transferable to the airflare. I recommend mastering these before pursuing the airflare directly.
Yeah, I agree with him. For me, windmill, flare, and swipes are the most 3 basic power moves to learn the airflare. The very basic 3. If you want to add more, like halos or like spinning handstands, then it's gonna be even better. Especially if you wanna learn, for example, halo is gonna be very useful if you wanna learn low airflare. Spinning handstand is gonna be necessary if you wanna learn walkovers. But flare, swipe, and windmill is gonna be very useful in general.
In addition to these power moves, there are prerequisites you should have before learning the airflare. Firstly, you need to be comfortable with a handstand. Secondly, you should be comfortable with a pike freeze on both sides, as the airflare involves throwing from and catching in these positions. Being able to perform single hand hop
Here
catching in
his
these
spike was
positions.
pretty deep. He even touched his foot, right? Oh yeah. Here he's grabbing one foot. This is a good exercise actually, even for people who cannot do airflare yet, to try to touch the foot in the way he's doing here and then throw the airflare. It's even harder than the airflare itself, of course, but for people who cannot do a proper pike, it makes you understand how to pike. So sometimes I know it's pretty weird to say, but sometimes in some cases I recommend a harder variation to learn an easier variation. So in some specific cases, I even would say to some of my students to try to learn one baby airflare or munch airflare, even though they cannot even do one normal airflare. It sounds like very weird, and someone will think, oh, why you make someone learn the baby airflare if they cannot do an airflare? In some cases, it makes sense, because in the baby airflare, your legs are stuck, and you really need to rely on the knees. So for example, if one of my students doesn't know how to use the knees in the airflare, I'm gonna make him practice the munch airflare in order to make it like mandatory that he needs to learn how to use the knees. But of course, I'm also gonna make him still learn the normal airflare. I should be able to do it sitting first.
Being able to perform single hand hops on both sides and handstand walks in a circle will also speed progress with airflares. Breaking the airflare down, the skill involves generating momentum, usually.
Also for him, you can see when you do the spinning handstand, he has the same problem as me. One leg is going a little backwards, and the legs are not really in a straddle position. No, I mean, they are in a straddle position. They are not like in a pancake position. They should be a little lower when you do a spinning handstand. That's probably why for him, the vertical airflare will be pretty hard. You need to be flexible in the hips and in the shoulders, but for him, it looks like he's similar to me. So you will also have hard times doing the walkover airflare. He would need a lot of specific mobility work. Actually, he looks very flexible when he do the pike. And me too, I'm the same. When I do pike freezes, people may think, oh, I'm so flexible in my legs and in my shoulder when I do pike freezes. Actually, it's true, I'm flexible in this specific movement, but I cannot do hollowbacks, for example. He can do hollowbacks, actually, but not the way useful for airflares, because his hollowbacks are pretty wide arms. But to do an airflare, you need to do hollowbacks with close arms, same like a bridge.
Breaking the airflare down, the skill involves generating momentum, usually from the power move entry, before entering a pike freeze on one side. Notice the body turns to face the sky. From here, the skill continues by jumping through the star shape in the air to an L kick or a mild pike freeze.
He almost
on the
touches his feet, so cool. His form is so clean.
Hand. Then both hands are planted as you transition back to the initial pike freeze. The body is angled roughly 45 degrees throughout, although you can perform airflares with the body angled higher or lower. You can also start the skill from a handstand and generate momentum by winding up. But in this video, I'll be teaching from and including the basic power entry, as I feel this is generally easier. If you feel more comfortable starting from a handstand, after winding up, the skill continues in the same manner, transferring to a pike freeze and jumping to the other side. Now that the technique has been covered, you can use the following progressions to work toward the airflare. In this tutorial, I'll be demonstrating
knees as wide as possible. Yes, but it's not really necessary. Some people even do airflares with knees a little bit closed. This depends on your flexibility, actually. If you're naturally not so flexible on the legs, it's still okay. You can keep your knees closer, tighter together. Of course, it will make your form different, not so wide, but it's still okay. You can still learn airflares with your knees closed. But if you are flexible enough, try to widen the legs more. If you want to make them wide, but you're not flexible, you just need to stretch. Just stretch a lot.
In the counterclockwise direction. Start by learning the power entry. This involves a cartwheel pattern in a circle. Start with your legs split slightly and perform a cartwheel pattern on the spot. The left leg kicks back and the right hand plants, then the right leg kicks.
Shoulder flexibility, I already mentioned this before. It depends on which form you want to achieve. So if you want to achieve high airflare, you need the shoulder flexion flexibility, this type of shoulder flexibility. So the same one that you use for a bridge or the same one that you use for a hollow back. If you want to do a wider airflare with the arms like this, you need more the shoulder extension flexibility, which is this type of flexibility here. So you need completely different exercises for these two type of flexibility of the shoulders. In one of them, you need bridges and hollow backs, basically shoulder flexion. In the other one, this one, that is kind of the same, it involves more doing the pike freezes very wide or doing like sitting on the floor and doing shoulder extension stretches on the floor. So it depends which way you want to do airflare, because the shoulder is very complicated because the arms can move in many different directions and can even turn like this. So you can do many different movements with the arm. So some people are very flexible in this way of the arm, but not here. Some people are very flexible in this way, but not here or here. So it really depends.
Back and the left hand plants. After this, the right hand lifts before the left foot lands, then the left hand lifts before the right foot lands. When you are comfortable with this, you can practice it in a circle and perform multiple repetitions in a row. Over time, aim to place the right...
Wait a second, the battery of my phone is almost dying.
...hand roughly where the left foot was. Gradually progress the proximity to vertical so you're able to transfer to the pike freeze comfortably. When you're comfortable with the power move entry, do this with very little momentum and transfer into a pike freeze before exiting to the feet. As this becomes consistent, practice transferring into the pike freeze and doing a small hop on that arm. This hop is useful for learning to generate hop.
Yeah, this is so useful. The same drill that I also show in my exercise video is so underrated. This drill is so underrated. It really makes you understand how to stay on the throwing arm and also how to hop from the throwing arm. That most of people lack in this kind of skill. So as soon as they are in their throwing arm, they throw immediately without waiting and without popping, without pushing the legs out and to the ceiling.
Right, which will later be used when throwing the other hand.
Yeah,
Once
so
you're
useful.
comfortable with the hop, you can enter with more momentum and practice throwing the free hand across the body as you hop with the goal of catching in a slight pike freeze on the other arm. Once this arm is landed, simply exit to the feet. A common mistake here is shooting the legs to the ground by kicking the leading leg back.
Okay, this in my opinion is not a mistake. It's just can be seen as a progression, you know. Some people cannot immediately learn it by pushing up completely, so they need to go through this progression and then try to connect the airflare with some other moves in order to get rid of this mistake.
Make sure you don't kick back.
But at least I like that at the beginning of the tutorial he said that this is the way he learned. So I don't think he means this is a mistake in general, but it's just not the way not the way to learn it if you want to learn it like he does. So I like that he added this detail in this tutorial.
Or let the hips extend past neutral, as this will...
Where's the water? Oh, okay.
result in your weight not being on top of you when you catch. As this phase can be scary, I recommend practicing this over a soft floor. Earlier I mentioned the throw should resemble a swipe. This will give a nice star shape when airborne. I like to pronate my wrist and internally rotate my arm. This ensures when I land, there is ample room to rotate on this arm before planting the other hand.
Oh, this is also a very underrated tip. I never said this in my tutorials, I think. And almost nobody, maybe he's the only one who talk about this. Actually, I just forgot to mention about this. But it should be said, because many people, when they throw their hands in the airflare, they throw the hand like this. Actually, the shoulder and the hand should be rotated internally, so like this. So it's not only about the hand, but also about the shoulder. The shoulder should a little bit do this movement when you throw. Why? Because otherwise you're gonna land the airflare with the hand like this. It's gonna be weird and it can hurt your wrist. I see this issue especially for people doing the walkover airflare. They're trying to throw their hands kind of like a hollow back, you know? That of course, maybe for them is natural because they are pretty flexible in this hollow back type of flexibility. but they need to try to rotate the arm internally a little more. In this case, they will have enough momentum to spin more in the Airflare.
With catching and working toward multiple airflares, you can learn to take the move to windmill or flare as an interim if you find it easier. This is especially useful for those who find their body drops as they try to continue. As these transitions become smooth, try to keep the hips elevated as you work toward doing 2 airflares. If you don't have difficulty catching on the arm with your weight over...
Here I like the fact that he recommends to connect the Airflare to flare and to windmills before attempting 2 airflares. Some people, they go directly for 2 airflares, and it's pretty hard, as I said at the beginning of this video.
You can practice transferring back to a pike freeze on the initial arm and work toward multiple airflares. Initially, the skill may feel disjointed and your power will diminish, but like learning the windmill, over time, you'll learn to swing your legs in circular motions to maintain power.
Oh, he does also 2 rounds to do 1 complete circle. Let's count again. So his hands are here.
You'll learn
1,
to swing your legs
2,
in circular motions
1,
to maintain
2,
power.
1, even less actually, even less than 2.
Notice my legs swoop very close to the ground as I transfer to the pike freeze. As I throw, the right leg horizontally abducts or swings out to the side as the hips extend just prior to being airborne. Although it usually comes naturally over time, you can practice these leg swing techniques against a wall as demonstrated here. As you become competent with swinging the legs, you will be less reliant on the pike and can perform airflares with a more open posture throughout. I hope this tutorial helps you master the airflare. If there's another skill you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments below.
Yeah, pretty good tutorial. I like it. I don't know if he misses some key points. Actually, this is the way he learned and this is the way he explained. So I cannot say that he's missing something or something like this because he specified this at the beginning of the video. So yeah, I have nothing to say. Actually, this maybe is the best tutorial that I see at the moment. It's not the most complete tutorial of the Airflare. The most complete would be a tutorial that explains the Airflare in different methods. But maybe it's the best one in the way he explained very clearly every single step and every single detail. Now I want to react to one of my very old tutorials I made with Bestia long time ago.
Hey, my name is Bestia. Hi, my name is Vincent, and I want to present you a new epic meal, Airflare with a little bit of polo. Don't forget the pasta and...
Okay, for those who don't know, if you didn't see the previous live stream that I did for the Flare, back in the days when we used to do Falcro, we like to add these kind of like funny moments or skits in our tutorials just to make them more entertaining. Some people didn't like them and they say, oh, just go straight to the tutorial. Some people instead, they like it a lot. And we even had people that were not b-boys or biggers that used to watch our tutorials just for fun because they enjoy. I don't know, it's a little weird, but it was cool.
Buon appetito!
Falcro intro. Should I skip it? No, let's watch it again. It's pretty cool in my opinion.
Hey guys, before to continue with the tutorial, I have to tell you something busy work you have in your
skip this part.
Requires a lot of warm up and stretching. Do it for at least 15 minutes. You have to stretch your wrists, your legs and your shoulders, but a little bit also your neck and your back.
Okay, actually here is so not precise. I talk about stretching, warming up, okay. But I think I should be a little bit more precise. So this tutorial was a little old and at that time I still didn't have the knowledge that I have now. So I didn't even know what the best stretches are. I learned it with time, gradually with time. At that moment I could, of course, I could already do airflares, and I could also already do different techniques of air flares. Maybe I will show in this tutorial. But even though I could do them, sometimes my knowledge was still not the best. Sometimes I could do something, but I didn't fully understand how I could do something. But then I I learned it with time, you know. Actually, all of these stretches and warm-up exercises that we're showing here are useful, but there are more that we needed to show specifically for the Airflare.
The Airflare is the most advanced basic move, so before to practice it, you need to master the handstand and some variations. The power moves start, like the windmill or the swipe. Also practice the monkey or the star walk. You have to get a lot of confidence with both your arms. This is another good exercise. Before practicing the Airflare, learn the air freeze and the L kick and also the power freeze on both sides. If you
by power freeze I meant pike freeze. At that time I used to call the pike freeze power freeze. I don't know why. I think almost everybody in Italy called the pike freeze power freeze. I don't know why. But I think worldwide almost nobody used the word power freeze. I think. If you use power freeze, let me know in the comments. I'm pretty curious to know.
you learn hand-ups on both sides, you will get a lot of control on your arms and Airflare will be much easier. Try to start like a swipe and then go into a flare to learn how to kick your legs. You can also practice.
Oh, this is very useful.
Like
Also, this is not mentioned in many tutorials. Maybe Sai Monster could mention about this because he's explained about the power start and also about the flare.
swipe and then go into a flare to learn.
This power move start, but going to a flare is really helping a lot to learn the leg momentum of the air flare.
How to kick
Start in this way, so the start is basically the same like an air flare,
your leg.
but then going
So you
inside
can also
into a flare. This really teaches you how from the power move start to kick very strong, because to do a flare from there you need to kick pretty strong. So if you can do this, and also pretty low, you need to kick strong and also low. So it really teaches you how to kick the legs both strong and low at the same time. Still holds up so far. Do you have a general preference between flares versus air flares that you enjoy practicing more? It's very hard. I really like both moves, so I cannot choose. I like both, really.
Practice are we
I feel like, yeah, maybe it depends on the training. It depends on the day. Some days I like to practice flare more. Some other days I like to practice air flare more. But even better, I like to combine them. So yeah.
really high Airflare. This is actually not a real Airflare, but it could
Oh, here
practice.
it's pretty funny because at that time I couldn't really do a very high air flare. Even now my form is very bad, but it's better than how I show in this video. Here in this clip I'm really trying to do a vertical air flare, but you see it doesn't look like an air flare at all. The main problem is my flexibility, because as I mentioned before, I was pretty flexible in this way of the shoulder, but I was not flexible here on this angle of the shoulder, so I cannot really open up the shoulder here, and I also have hard times looking up and also have hard times being in a good posture of my legs. Actually, I really tried to be in a good posture, but the limiting factor was the flexibility, not really the technique here. Maybe it doesn't look like so, it looks like I have a wrong technique here, but actually the limiting factor was my flexibility, because even in the handstand, you can a little bit notice that my handstand was not perfectly straight, but that my arms were slightly like this in the handstand and not fully straight like this. This was due to my lack of shoulder flexion flexibility. And also in the spinning handstand, I couldn't keep my legs low. My legs in the spinning handstand were pretty high. This is connected to the shoulder flexibility and the spine also.
This is actually not a real Airflare, but it could help a little bit.
Ooh, I forgot about this part, B-Boy Fa. This guy is so crazy good in air flares. He can do so many variations. I don't know what is he doing now. I think he doesn't dance anymore. I used to be friends with him. We used to chat a lot. When he were still active, then we kind of lost contact over time. But he's pretty crazy.
Welcome to Kaio, Falcon Productions. This is Fabio, Peace.
There are many different forms of the Airflare. This is the basic one, where you swing your right leg and you push high with your left knee and your butt.
Yeah, as you can see here, this leg is a little bit like a hand-up shape, he's bouncing, and this other leg is swinging down and then up. So this is the more common way to do the Airflare, the most common.
Body is 45 degrees from the ground. This first form is kind of like the Bruce Lee form or the typical Korean form of the Airflares. The second form is different because
the difference here, as you can see, this leg is not really bouncing, or maybe a little bit. It's just slightly bouncing, but not really like Bestia did. So Bestia knee, for example, was at least here, you know. My knee is bouncing very small, so this form basically just relying on swinging, on momentum.
Your legs, so you don't use your left knee to
it's still a little bounce, is still happening, but it's pretty little.
You swing it.
Some people don't use even just a little bounce. For example, Punisher, when he swings, you cannot notice any bounce at all, so his body is very straight. What did you do to improve your shoulder extension? Shoulder extension, you just sit on the floor, you place your hands backwards like this, and then you slide with your butt forward. So in order to stretch, you should feel the stretch on the front part of the shoulder and a little bit on the pecs here. And to improve the shoulder flexion, you just do the hollow back. You can do against the wall. So you do a handstand against the wall, and then you try to push in this way. So you try to push out your chest, and you try to push your shoulder backwards. In the shoulder extension, also you try to push your chest out, but the shoulder need to go in this direction here. So you need to find some position where you're stretching in this direction mainly. You can also use a bar, or for example, if I have a chair here, I don't know if you can see, I can grab the chair with my hands like this, backwards, and then I can lower myself down like this. Maybe you cannot see, I don't know. But yeah, the concept is like you need to grab something, or you need to place your hands on the floor, and then you need to slide with your butt. So in this way, you will create a distance from your hips and from your hands. Let's move on.
The Chico Pocket and Punisher form. The third form is the Trick 1. In this form, you use both your knees to push high, like hand-ups. Many b-boys who can do a lot of tricks can do that form, like b-boy Bobby, b-boy So-So. This is the bouncing form.
Okay, this is pretty different from the swinging. As you can see, actually, the shape of the legs doesn't really matter, but it matters how much your legs are close to you. I can straighten one leg and bend the other, or I can do the opposite. I can bend the other leg and I can straighten the other. Doesn't really matter which leg is straight, which leg is bent. But what matters is the angle. As you can see, I'm really closed. I'm really piking a lot.
In this form,
so it's pretty different. Here you can see that there is a clear angle here. Tongue. It's not straight. This leg is not like going in this way, but it's really try to pike.
On your right arm, you're going to...
And as you can see, I'm waiting a lot on this arm. I'm still not jumping, you see?
Power freeze,
and then I'm jumping really last second. Look how long I'm waiting.
This is the bouncing form. In this form...
So from here,
wait.
I start to swing and to rotate my body, to open my chest. And here I'm still not jumping, even though my legs are already rotating. And here I'm still not jumping, even if this leg is already facing almost the opposite direction. And my chest is almost facing up. This arm is already swinging, actually. And this leg is already kicking straight up. And then I jump.
On your right arm, you go into a power freeze and you push your legs up together with your hips. This is the form of B-Boy Marcio, B-Boy Astro. You need to have a really good power freeze to do that. And if you are really flexible, it's even better.
So yeah, for this form, you need to have a very, very good pike freeze. Even better on both sides. And you need to have good shoulder extension. For people who have a very good flare, especially high flare on the front, this probably will be easy, because to do a strong flare on the front part and to make your flare very high in the front part, you need to have a very good shoulder extension. The same type of flexibility that you need for this form of flare, for Airflare, sorry. Yes, when you do the hollow back for Airflare, you need your hands narrow. So don't do the hollow back like this, because if you do the hollow back like this, you're gonna dislocate your shoulders. When same like when you grab a stick, for example, and then you're gonna do a shoulder dislocation. When you do the shoulder dislocation, actually you're using the extension of the shoulders, because you're not really stretching here, but you're gonna dislocate the shoulders, and then the shoulders are gonna stretch in this position here. That is the same as the shoulder extension. If you wanna stretch in the shoulder flexion, you need to be narrow with your hands. So if you use a stick, for example, you need to grab the stick like this, or if you use the wall, you can place the hands like this on the wall and try to stretch like this. You can even use a table. So here there's a table, for example. I lean the hands on the table and then I go down like this, but the hands need to be at the same width as the shoulders, you know. And this is gonna stretch a little bit different muscles, not the same as a shoulder extension and not the same as shoulder dislocation. This time you're gonna stretch this muscle here, I'm not sure how is it called, and then the lat muscle, that is this big muscle here that makes your back big, you know. So it's completely different muscle, even though it's still flexibility of the shoulder, it's connected with the lat muscle.
This is the high form or the vertical form. This maybe is the...
Here I try to do it vertically, but it's not really vertical, it's higher than usual. Okay, here I'm pretty vertical actually. Yeah, I'm pretty almost vertical.
You don't have to jump so much. Your arms are really close to your head. And this is low form. Maybe this is the hardest one, because your body is horizontal and you have to kick really, really hard. This is the form of B-Boy Luigi, Machine, Venom, Iron Monkey. Some people used to call it the Star Trek. You can also mix these forms and create your own Airflare form. Let's start with the basic form. You have to start like a swipe and then swing your right foot and leg as close as you can to the ground and then kick them up. Kinda like a circle. Now Bestia is showing you how to kick your right leg if you spin clockwise. Now Bestia will show you how to use your left leg. You have to bend your knee a little bit and kick it up. It's a mix between an hand up and an air freeze. Then when you go through the round, you have to kick both legs at the same time. When you kick with your legs, you have to keep your left arm straight and push it to do a jump and land.
Yeah, this is a little bit complicated, but yeah, so the left leg here is bouncing up. Even better if you imagine the left leg as we show in the arrow here, not just kicking up, straight up, but kicking diagonally over your head, so in the direction of your head, because most people have the opposite problem. So most people, they kick their leg in this way. So imagine the opposite direction of this big arrow here, they kick on the opposite direction. So to avoid this mistake, instead of just thinking about kicking completely straight up to the ceiling, think about kicking this leg over your head. This will make you kick in the correct direction, actually.
And push.
And the other leg is just making a big circle.
To do a jump and land on your left arm. And make sure to make it straight and stiff. If you want, you can also bend your right arm a little bit, but not so much. But do not bend your landing arm, because if you bend it, you will land on your elbow and you will fall. You have also to use your hips. You have to push it high, like when you do hand-ups or archer up and stuff like that.
Actually, this tutorial for the time was pretty good. Sorry. Because it's explaining a lot of forms and a lot of details that many other tutorials don't explain, even about the hips, for example, and even about the arm. Yeah, actually bending the throwing arm is not a problem. I also bend it slightly. The important thing is not bend it too much, as we say, because otherwise you're gonna risk to fall on your elbow. But the very important thing is do not bend at all costs the landing arm. Many people, when they do the first round of Airflare, they fall on their elbow. If you have this kind of problem that you're falling on the elbow when doing the Airflare, this is the first thing that you should fix as quickly as possible, because the hands in the Airflare are the arms, and the hands are the basics, are the fundamentals of the Airflare, you know, because without hands you cannot do Airflare. You're basically kind of like the feet when we are walking. If you don't have feet, you cannot walk. If you don't have legs, you cannot walk. You know, airflare is where the hands are the fundamental of the airflare. So if you cannot use your hands and your arms properly, and if you fall on your elbow, you're already throwing your arm completely wrong. So you should fix this mistake as soon as possible before it becomes a habit. Because when falling on your elbow becomes a habit, it will be so hard to correct. And then you will never be able to do an airflare if you keep falling on your elbow. Maybe you can learn a variation where you fall on your elbow and then you go to windmill, for example. You can still do it. But the normal airflare, it will be very hard to learn. If you have some issues with the legs, you can still learn airflares. Even so many people do the airflare with some weird leg shape, you know? But you never see someone doing the airflare by landing with the arm completely bent, you know? Because it's impossible. You're gonna fall.
You have to open your arms in correspondence on how many degrees you are from the ground. For example, if your body is 45 degrees from the ground, your arms must be as open as your shoulders, at the same level. If you are really vertical, your arms must be as close as you can to your head. If you want to do a really...
Yeah, this is also pretty interesting. Nobody explained about this. Is the angle how to throw the arms. Because many people don't know exactly how wide to throw the arms. If to throw like this, like completely horizontal, or a little bit like a V shape with the arms, or a little bit closer like this, how much exactly to use the arms, you know? Actually, this depends on the body angle, like as we say. The more vertical, usually the more vertical also the throwing of the arms. The lower the airflare, so if the airflare is 90 degrees off the floor, then the arms are going to be completely in a straight line. But, as I mentioned before in this live stream, if you do the airflare very vertical, so like this, then you can add this kind of fake swing of the arm, kind of like swimming that I mentioned before, to kind of add the effect that you're using, like that you're doing a real airflare, even though it's very vertical. So here, I still didn't think about this detail, and I didn't mention about this detail. But this is a very important detail that you can add if you are doing vertical airflares.
Low airflare, your arms must be at the same level as the shoulders or even lower. You cannot do an horizontal airflare with your hands really close to your head, or you cannot do a really high airflare with your hands really low, because if you do that, you will fall on your shoulder. Try it a lot on the wall to understand this concept, and make sure to feel really comfortable when you land. Now, Bestia will show you how to use your legs in the trick form of the airflares. The legs form is really similar to the hand hops form, so that's why I told you hand hops are really useful to learn the airflare. But while you do the airflare, you have also to swing your right leg a little bit, not only push with your knee. Make sure to use your knees and not your feet. Now I'm gonna show you how to do the bounced form. You need to kick your left leg really close to your head, exactly like a power freeze or a L kick. If you cannot do that, you have to stretch a lot. If you want, you can also bend your other leg. It doesn't matter if you bend your legs a little bit, but you have to kick them up. In the bounced form, the right leg just swing as the other forms, but when you land on your left arm, you have to kick it really close to your face and do another power freeze. It's kinda like a power freeze to power freeze, right hand power freeze to left hand power freeze. To learn this concept, you can start with your right hand, like the power freeze position. Starting this way, you will learn how to bounce your legs, and you will learn how to not use the rotation of your legs to do the airflare, but only use your hips and the bounce of your legs. It's a really good exercise. I recommend to try it if you want to learn the airflare with this form. Now, how to continue it? The most important tip that I can tell you.
Hi guys, which windmill variation do you consider the hardest to learn? In my opinion, the hardest is the tombstone. Tombstone is very hard for me. But also Australian windmill is pretty hard.
to continue the Airflare when you fall on your foot. Try to continue, however, into a windmill, into a flare, into a swipe, or whatever. If you will do that, you will learn step by step how to continue to kick with your legs, and you will get cleaner and cleaner with the time and practice. This requires a lot of practice, so be patient.
This is very essential. I think every tutorial should mention about this in the Airflare, to just keep going. Even if you do one unclean round, just try to continue, and then it will get cleaner with time.
To continue the Airflare when you fall on your foot. Try to continue, however, into a windmill, into a flare, into a
So
swipe,
as you can see
or
here,
whatever.
he
Try
fell
to
on the floor.
continue
Of course, he do it on purpose, but the intention is still to keep
However,
going, you know, because keep going like this, it will create the momentum to create the technique, you know. Oh, be careful.
I'm sorry. It's okay.
Sorry, guys. Wait a second. Can you see me? Let me check.
Is it okay?
Yes, it's okay.
I will go to another room. Is it okay?
Okay, so what I want to say is that here he's touching with one foot on the floor, you see, and then he even touches with the other foot on the floor, you see, but then he still continuing. Actually, it's good, because what matters is the intention most of times. Is the intention of knowing which one will be the next progression. So for example, here he's touching with both feet on the floor before going to windmill. Maybe his next goal or his next intention would be to only touch with one foot on the floor before going to windmill. The key thing is like knowing which one is the next progression that you should do. The main problem with a lot of people who got stuck in the Airflare for too long is they don't know how to progress exactly. What is the next progression in my Airflare? They just think, oh, how do I get better in general in my Airflare? But it's not like this. They should have a very one specific thing or detail that they should focus on. So for example, let's say Bestia here
when you fall on your
is stuck in this
foot. Try to continue, however,
in this variation. So he falls with both feet on the floor. So his next goal should be doing exactly the same thing, but falling with only one foot. Or for example, another case, let's say you're doing one Airflare, but you cannot connect to another move. You should first understand why you cannot connect to another move. And then you should try to fix only one simple detail to make it connect to the other move. Maybe only focusing on throwing this arm more straight, for example. Or maybe focusing only on pulling the leg closer to your face. The left leg, for example. Don't focus on too many things at the same time, because the brain cannot process too many information in a very brief moment. The Airflare, everything is happening so fast, you know? So you cannot think about so many details at the same time. Think only on one thing, focus only on one thing at a time. Fix this one thing first, and then when you fix it and when it comes natural for you, choose another detail that you want to fix. So start with one, fix it, and then later on choose another one and fix it again, and then later on choose another one and fix it again. So in this case, you make sure you fix gradually all the details. Don't just think randomly or generally, oh, I need to fix this, 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 and this. It will be too overwhelming. Tombstone probably. Yeah, I agree, Tombstone. Nutcrackers are pretty easy. Nutcrackers are much easier, for example, than handcuff. Handcuff is the same like Nutcracker, but instead of placing your hands on your nuts, you're gonna place your hands backwards. So it creates more friction, actually. Hi, Kaio. When doing windmill to Airflare, windmill to 90, or even windmill to handstand in general, how do you prevent yourself from doing the backspin or like spinning in place? It means that you're just waiting too long before the transition. So you just need to do it immediately. Just use the momentum of the windmill to go up immediately. Don't just wait on the position. It's pretty simple. I think, you know, windmill to Airflare should feel like you are rolling up sideways from one shoulder to the other from windmill. No spin circularly, like doing fast windmill. I think you can start slowly, you know. You can start doing the windmill to handstand very slowly at first, and then you can increase the speed step by step gradually. Don't try immediately to use too much momentum of the windmill, but try to still use the momentum of the windmill, but slowly, very slowly, and then go up. And then when you learn it in this way, then try a little faster, and then learn it again. And then when you learn it a little bit faster, and so on and so on.
A windmill into a flare, into a swipe, or whatever. If you will do that, you will learn step by step how to continue to kick with your legs, and you will get cleaner and cleaner with the time and practice. This requires a lot of practice, so be patient, really patient, and practice Airflare really often. Once you will be able to be really patient and practice Airflare really
this is actually
so be patient,
almost
really patient.
how I learned Airflare at first, you know. I was doing Airflare like this, kind of like this, and then going to flare,
really often. Once you
and then gradually it got cleaner and cleaner.
Airflare into a windmill or into a flare. Try to do more than one Airflare in one combo. For example, Airflare to windmill to Airflare again. When you will master the first Airflare combos, you will be able to start practicing 2 rounds of Airflare.
Yeah, this is very good advice also that almost nobody gives. For many people, I noticed that the amount of rounds they can do of Airflares is the same amount of rounds they can do in one combo. For example, or pretty similar, maybe not exactly the same, but pretty similar. For example, people who can do only 2 rounds of Airflare, usually they can do 2 rounds of Airflare in the same combo also. For example, they can do 1 Airflare to windmill to another Airflare, or maybe they can do Airflare to flare, some flares, and then they go up to Airflare just one more time. People who can do 3 rounds of Airflare are also usually people who can do Airflare 3 times in a combo. It's not always so precise, sometimes can be different. So for example, some people can do 3 Airflares, but they can do only 2 Airflares in a combo, but the number is pretty similar. So the more times you can do 1 round of Airflare in one combo, the more likely you will learn multiple rounds of Airflare. So for example, if I can do Airflare to flare to Airflare to windmill to Airflare to swipe to Airflare to hello to Airflare again, it's very, very likely that I can also do at least 5 rounds of Airflare, you know. So I really recommend to learn as many Airflares as possible in one combo, separately, not for example 3 rounds consecutively and then going to windmill, but separately. So 1 Airflare to one move to another Airflare to another move to another Airflare to another move, and so on. The more you learn how to do like this, the more likely your Airflare will get more stable also.
The first times, the second round will be lower than the first.
Yeah, kind of like
one.
I show here,
the
for
first
example.
Boss, you will be able to start practicing 2 rounds of Airflares. The first times, the second round will be lower than the first one. But don't worry about that. With the time and practice, will be cleaner and cleaner. But now I'm gonna present you the Airflare master itself, and he's gonna give you the best tips to learn this move.
Oh, he's Chico. I forgot about this part. Windmill to Airflares are really tough. Yeah, it can be tough, but it can be learned pretty gradually, you know. So you don't have to learn windmill to Airflare directly. You can learn windmill to head spin first, windmill to elbow track first, windmill to flares by using different techniques, by using the freeze, but also by not using the freeze, windmill to flare just straight arm, then windmill to swipe, and then when you can do all these things, you can just try the windmill to Airflare, and probably it will happen automatically because you learn all the prerequisites already. So everything should be learned very gradually. Funny question, but Kaio, but want to know generally too, if you are a b-boy, especially power move b-boy who can do good power moves, is it easy to attract girls on a legitimate I don't think so. Maybe girls can be impressed by power moves. For example, when we used to do street shows in my hometown or even in other cities, some girls used to stop to see, but then if they are attracted or not by you, it's all a matter of your looks or your energy. It's not a matter of your power moves. Yeah, because I also met some power move guys that can do good power moves, but then they don't look attractive, or maybe their energy with girls is not good, so they couldn't attract any girl. So it also actually power moves can help you a little bit, but it's not the deal breaker, you know. So it's just extra. Oh, B-Boy Bestia is online. B-Boy Bestia, I was just watching our old tutorial with you included. This guy,
For example, Airflare
B-Boy
to
Bestia,
windmill to
who
Airflare again. Into
our
the
old
inner
Airflare
and
tutorial
faster
from
I think
Falcro.
that-
Yeah, here I met Chico in a random event in Italy, and then I asked him if he can do this. What is his best advice for Airflare? And he replied like this. Let's hear.
And he's gonna give you the best tips to learn this move.
So I think the best way to do Airflare is you have to have the on the side and the air like this, and wear a gray t-shirt.
When you learn few rounds of Airflare, or you can already do many
Boy
rounds,
Bestia.
you can practice this exercise to improve your form and your control.
Oh, it's pretty good. I like in this tutorial, most of tutorials don't do this. What to do after you learn this move, okay? So actually, yeah, after learning the Airflare, it's very good, very useful to try to do handstand to Airflare and also Airflare to handstand to improve the control. Actually, if you can do handstand to Airflare and Airflare to handstand, you can almost do any other transition. Oh, pretty cool. Here, starting directly with the one arm and then going into multiple Airflares.
The most common mistakes while doing the Airflare are starting too high. If you start lower, you will be able to go up. Not kick your right leg enough. You have to kick it really fast and hard. Use your legs, but do not use your hips, so you will fall down. Practice the
This is
Airflare
pretty much
with
like the
legs, but
swinging
do not
technique.
enough.
Actually, it's not bad. You can use the swinging technique without pushing your hips up, but the problem is you need a lot of speed, a lot of momentum. If you don't have speed and momentum, it's so hard to do the Airflare so low like this and just by swinging the legs like this.
Kick it really fast.
So basically, the more you use your hips and the more you push up with your hips, the less momentum you need.
And hard. Use your legs, but do not use your hips, so you will fall down. Practice the Airflare without spread your legs and open them. If you do that, you will feel uncoordinated. Bend your landing arm. Use your knees, but do not swing your legs. If you do that, you will have not enough rotation to continue.
Oh, this is a pretty nice case. Now I'm doing Airflare on the opposite direction. On the opposite direction, my power moves are very weak. I cannot do proper windmills on the opposite direction, halos, and I cannot do proper combos with good speed. And as you can see, it directly transfers on my Airflare form, because when I do Airflare on the other side, I cannot use momentum at all, because I'm not used to the momentum on other power moves. But as you can see, I can still pretty decently use the hand-up shape, because I can do hand-ups on both sides.
But do not,
as you can see here, wait.
Bend your landing arm. Use your knees, but...
So here, as you can see, I don't have momentum at all, but my posture is pretty good. It means like I have pretty good foundation in freezes on both sides, but I don't have enough power to kick. So that's why it's both important to master tricks and freezes to get a good control and good posture like this, but also to master basic power moves to give you enough momentum to kick and to create rotation. Here I have good posture actually, but I don't have momentum at all.
Not swing your legs. If you do that, you will have not enough rotation to continue to spin.
Let me read the comments. Was Airflare really the dream back in the day? Meaning if you can do it, you probably are already legendary in your country or something, compared to maybe today that this becomes a basic. Yeah, for me personally, when I started breaking, I started around 2005. When I started, Airflare was like a dream move, but already some people in my city could already do Airflare. At least, let me think, at least or four people could do Airflare in my city, and my city is not that big. In my city, there are 200,000 people. 200,000 people in my city, so it's not a big city, but also not too small city. It's kind of like an average city in Italy, and already 4 people there could already do the Airflare, which is a decent number, I think. Later in the years, more people learned it, me included, but at the beginning it was only 3 or 4 of them. And only one could do it with very clean form. His name is Mule. Shout out to B-Boy Mule. The other ones could also do Airflare, but their form was not the best. And at that time, yeah, I felt like, oh my god, Airflare is the dream. But nowadays, I feel like if I start, Airflare is just one of the fundamentals you should have, you know, because any kid can do Airflare nowadays. It's pretty crazy. So at our time, the kids are not high level in power moves usually. The most high level in power moves are guys around 20 years old or 21, 22, or even 25. But nowadays, the highest level of power moves is around 15 to 19, I would say. So teenagers, not anymore in their 20s, but I would say in their teenage years, sometimes even kids, you know. So the level changed more based on the years now. Hello, Alicia. I think we all know you can easily do power moves that continuously generate momentum like Airflare, windmill, hello flare, but how come you never learned head spins, 90s and 2000? Single axis moves. Oh, there are multiple reasons. So one, I don't like them so much. I prefer power moves where you spin in different axes, not only one. And second, 90 and 2000 because my wrist flexibility is very poor. So I show you here. This is the maximum that I can bend my wrist. So I need to do a lot of stretching for my wrist in order to make it bend more than this. So basically when I put my hand on the floor to spin, I cannot spin on this part only of my hand. When I'm doing 90s or 2000, I'm supposed to spin here. But when I try to do 90 and 2000, my fingers stay flat on the floor. So I have a lot of friction. So if I wanted to practice 90s and 2000, I need to bend my arm, or I need to put a glove that cover my whole hand. But in this way, it's so slippery. So I need to have a very good floor, and it was pretty scary for me. So I just decided to give up. Actually, I think I could still learn it, but it would require a lot of work for me to learn a decent 90 or a decent 2000. Maybe for some other people who have more wrist flexibility, they can spin pretty easily because they can bend their wrist more, and so for them it's very easy to stay in the correct spot. But for me, I would need a lot of extra flexibility work on my wrist in order to just go in the correct spot on my wrist. So this is the second reason. And the third for head spin, actually, because I was so afraid to hurt my neck in the head spins, because I always felt like, oh, I can practice head spin a little bit just to learn it a little bit. Actually, I can do head spins, but not with a good form. But I felt like, I would be pretty afraid of doing head spin in combos. Maybe just doing head spin, it's okay. But doing head spin from windmill and from other moves, it makes me pretty afraid. What if I connect head spin from a little bit of a weird angle and my neck a little bit turns like this and I crack my neck, something like this. So I was always a little bit scared of head spins. This is the same reason also why I don't practice flips so much, because I'm pretty much a careful person, you know. I'm not someone who just throw himself into moves or practice some crazy moves, you know. I'm very careful and I want to learn things very gradually and very slowly, you know. So also learning, for example, the corks or any flip where you need to twist around, you know, it makes me pretty scared and pretty afraid. So same reason for the head spin, I was always afraid to hurt my neck.
Hey yo, brothers, since this tutorial...
Definitely, I think guys 20, 25 still have high level power moves though. See Grom, Tsuki, Shigekicks. Yeah, they are very high level actually. But I think the most, if you want to compare the most high level, are people like Tiger, Malish, and these Chinese kids nowadays, and even B-Boy Nana from Taiwan, and yeah, that's it. The Russians and the Chinese, mostly they are still teenagers actually, and they are the ones now that are pushing the new boundaries, you know. I don't know how old is Tiger. I think Tiger is already in his 20s, but he's still very young. I think he's early 20s, I guess. I'm not sure. That's it for this tutorial. Let me see. So yeah, I think I will close here because it's already pretty long and I already reacted to many tutorials. Let me know in the comments which other move you want me to focus on the next live stream. So the first live stream I reacted mainly on flares. Now it was all about air flares. Next one, it can be, I don't know, about windmills, about 90s, about even moves that I cannot do. I still know the technique. So for example, even though I cannot do 90s, I know how to do 90s. I know the technique, so I can still react to the tutorials and I can still explain the move. Some other moves I don't know the technique so much. For example, UFOs, I wouldn't be able to explain UFOs so much because I never practice and I never really care about them. Same thing, jackhammers. Jackhammers, I think the techniques can be pretty easy, but I never really focus on them so much, so I don't know much, but I can kind of guess how to do. So yeah, let me know in the comments, or maybe I will just find out myself. And thank you for watching, guys. I'm gonna also live stream in the next days on my Twitch and in my Kick about other things completely not related to breaking. So I will do mainly gaming, I think. I wanna do some retro games. I like Pokemon games, the old Pokemon games, or maybe some other games that I can play. I don't know, I need to figure that out. But if you want to follow me on other things that are not related to breaking, go on my Twitch. I will also react to other videos, mainstream videos, not breaking videos. And at the moment I will do separately. So these live streams here on this channel will be only about breaking. Other live streams on other topics will be separately on Twitch and on Kick. My username is the same, Kaio Falcro, in all the social medias. And yeah, that's it. Maybe in future I will merge the thing and I will do everything on one single channel. But at the moment I want to keep things separately because I'm not sure if you guys are also interested in other type of content. And I don't want to bother you too much, so annoy you too much. So I'm gonna keep things separately. But if I receive some many comments of people like that they just follow me for whatever reason, not only for the tutorial, then I'm gonna merge things together. And yeah, windmill up in general. Oh, windmill up. Yeah, I can also do combos tutorials next time, actually. Yeah, let me know. And thank you. Peace. See you next time, or feel free to follow me on Twitch or Kick. Peace, guys.